The world's going to hear the roar of our engines.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
You do your work, and we will do our bit.
Republic. I like the sound of it. It means people can live free, talk free, go or come, buy or sell, be drunk or sober, however they choose.
Are you ready to be who you are?
No poetry, just a straight answer.
The government has deliberately sought to deceive the United States by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace.
We are men of the hood. Matty, now at your expense.
But there's no both sides anymore. They're just trying to wreck our goddamn country. It's time for you younger guys to take over it.
You meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
If you guys don't start thinking as men, we're gonna have a lousy country.
For the crimes of incitement to cause unrest, I decline to be an outlaw!
Hey, I just got the finger from Phil. Hey, good evening, Outlaws. It's October 8th. This is your Sunday evening broadcast of the Outlaw Radio Network. And if you're following along on our social media platforms, we look a little weird on camera tonight. Everyone is everywhere. What are you trying to tell me, Philip?
Invite Kevin.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll eventually invite Kevin. I mean, do we have to? Do we have to hurry? No. Joining us remotely from some sunny beach, well, formerly sunny beach in San Diego, is Kdawg. And not too much longer from now, we ought to be joined by St. Paul, the sometimes a voice of reason. Hey, Kevin.
What's up, buddy? This will be a first for the show. I had a previously planned escapade to San Diego this weekend, and so I'm out of town. And Paul's had some stuff come up on personal businesses, kept him at home. So we got Tom in studio. We got me in San Diego. We got Paul somewhere in the middle of nowhere where there's no power and hamsters powering a generator. And it'll be a different show tonight, but we'll have fun. We'll make it all work. I do want to give a couple quick props as well to Tom for being willing to be in studio tonight and help see this whole thing through. Bob Ross and DJ D have done a lot of back work, and Lori is in studio as well. So thanks to the entire team for pulling this whole crazy shenanigan off. And welcome to the show. We're really lucky. We have a full show of guests tonight. So in just a moment, we're going to speak with Rhonda, John, and Jamie. They are candidates for South Kitsap School District in their own respective districts. We had them on several weeks ago. We're bringing them back on again now because it's a very important conversation to have as we get kind of close to the date where you're going to fill out those ballots and mail them in and pick who you want represent yourself on the school board. Later in the hour, we're going to talk with some folks from the Kitsap County Republican Party. We've had a long-standing communication with them and a good working relationship with them, so that'll be good. And then at 9 o'clock, Robert McGee, who's been a friend of the show, but it'll be his first time to appear on the show as an actual candidate, as he's running for South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Commissioner in the 3rd District. So it'll be a very full show for the first half with a whole bunch of guests. And then in the second half, we'll get to all the big news that's plaguing us, including what happened in the last 36 hours or so in Israel, and a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about as well. However, let's go to our guests in studio. We're really excited. Joining Tom at the big old table is Rhonda Edwards, District 5, John Zamel, District 1, Jamie Cross, District 2. They're all candidates for South Kitsap School.
And it looks like technology's done what technology does. And Kevin's kind of, frozen, as we can see. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of pick up the ball where Kevin left off. I'm not really.
We're going to call this technical issues. I don't know. I don't know. Tom, did my intro for all the guests go out okay before I dropped?
Yeah, and then you just like stopped in mid sentence. So hey, do me a favor. Maybe send me some of your questions in a Facebook message or something, so I can keep a conversation going if that happens again.
Well, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm going to have you guys start with introducing yourselves, talking a little bit about your candidacy. While you guys do that, I'm going to drop offline, switch over to my phone, and see if I can get a better internet connection that way. So, again, Rhonda Edwards, District 5, John Zamel, District 1, Jamie Cross, District 2. Rhonda, why don't you start and tell us about yourself, why you're running, and what you hope to accomplish, and I'll be right back with you.
All righty. Well, my name is Rhonda Edwards. I'm a lifelong resident of South Kitsap. I love Port Orchard, and I love kids. And I recently sold a couple of my businesses, and that has given me a little free time to where I can give back to my community. After seeing the board and all of the various budget problems and also all the testing problems, low test scores throughout all grades, really, I really feel like that's where I want to focus. I want to build trust between the board and the public. I want to improve the education. And you can't improve something if you don't acknowledge you have a problem. And we have a big, big problem in educating our children. Our test scores are extremely low. And I think we're done blaming COVID for this. There is no excuse. Hoping to get to a 50% of the kids can read at third grade level at the end of third grade is not a goal. It should be 100%. And 50% is not good. That's leaving 50% behind. So that's why I got involved. I want to make a difference. I want to make an improvement. I want to build bridges of trust with the community. And I want to do whatever I can to help educate our kids.
Very nice. John, I'm assuming you've got similar motivations or something of that sort. Is something you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So hi, my name's John. John Zamel. I'm running for District 1. And can you hear me? Okay. Now can you hear me?
That sounds real good.
We guess something that's on my mind is, and I just read these articles. It's called "Take Back the Classroom," and there's two books that are on this list. It's called "Push," "Sapphire," and "The Bluest Eye," and I just got done for the last 45 minutes reading articles from these books, and they're nasty. It's not even pornographic. It's sick and twisted, and I feel gross. And they have rape, sexually explicit, sex with minors, incest, all of it. And it's like there's probably, I don't even know, maybe 10 pages in each of these pamphlets about nasty literature that's in the South Kitsap School District Library.
Which schools?
I think it's just in the system. You can rent these. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but you can check these out. And I'd have to get a little bit more information on that. But
sure,
they're in the system.
Okay.
And you can look them up, and it's bad. It's awful. I tried to talk to, what's her name?
Lori.
I tried to have Lori read the first little bit. She's like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope,
Lori's our
nope.
gatekeeper. Yeah. She's the one who keeps us. That joke over your shoulder there about it's been 40 days since the last FCC.
But here's the deal. Nobody should be reading this. I felt nasty. My wife is going to read it out of school board. I don't want her reading it. I don't want it in my house. And it shouldn't be in our school district. And that's the thing that I think I'm most passionate about is how bad things are getting everywhere in our society, in our school system. And someone's going to have to step up and say, no, that's not okay. That's not okay. We need to get rid of that. And we got to have some boundaries. Okay.
Yeah. Well, last but not least, sir.
Yeah, Jamie Cross here. I think I've decided to run is based on the fact that the schools they're just not getting the kids educated properly. and getting them ready for the world. It's the scores are way below level, which is unacceptable. And it seems like the whole school system, from the board all the way through everybody, is all beholden to the system at large and all tied into the system. And I just want to come in and be an outside voice
Right.
that has no ties. I think maybe some different ideas, and I think they're probably scared to death to get some people in there that aren't beholden to the system.
Hey,
Because-
I jump up and down and yell and scream about vote out the incumbent every time. So,
Yeah, I mean,
but that's just me.
I'm just a normal guy from the community, business owner, been here my whole life, have kids that have gone through the system, have kids in the system now. With all the highly educated teachers and administrators at the school, you think we'd be doing a lot better, and it just doesn't seem like we are. So there's got to be an answer to that question.
So before we bring Kevin back in, because it looks like he's got his
I'm here.
He's
Woohoo!
here. So all three of you have kind of a common thing, and it's test scores and underperformance and stuff, right?
Correct.
And yeah, we've mentioned COVID, and yeah, COVID's a factor, but like you said, COVID is done, and it was a short little window of time.
Mm-hmm.
How long has the system been failing us?
Well, I went back 8 years in the system
Okay.
as far as looking at the reading and the math. And I mean, even 10 years ago, we were only at 50% and 52%
Okay, so
passing in
well-
various grade levels, which is also a failure.
Well,
as far as I'm
50% is an
concerned.
F.
Yeah,
So, okay. So
exactly.
there's 10 years.
There's failure.
Anyone else? We have any other numbers further back?
Off the top of my head, I looked at it a while back. I was looking into it, and it's been since like the 80s or before. It's been
Okay.
slowly declining, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but it was tied to something rather that happened within the whole system, and whether it be at the federal level, forming the Federal Education Association, and just the governmental takeover, basically, them starting to get the fingers into the education system, which should be more community-based. And I think from that point on, it started, with the Washington Education Association, all these associations. From that point on, it started declining.
Okay. So we can agree we have a decades-long problem at least.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, with that sunny picture, why don't you go ahead?
Well, let me ask you this too, Jamie. Make sure you talk right up on that microphone so everybody can hear you well. Let me ask this question, guys. How did it get so far out of hand? Like, is it laziness? Is it, Paul talks a lot about the leftist agenda. Is it an agenda from the left side of the political aisle that's trying to put this into the schools? Is it?
Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of different things. There's a lot of money involved in the school system, and a lot of people are making money off of the system. So whether it be the ever-changing curriculum or the I lost my train of thought there. It's just in the. What was the question again, please?
Well, I mean, just what do you think has led to us to get where we are? Like, I would like to believe that everybody involved in the schools, from the school board members to everybody, they would say, and they probably believe they have the best interest of the kids in mind. Obviously, the results don't show that. But how did we get here?
Well, a lot of it's accountability, like I kind of said in my opening statement about how the system is all, the watchdogs of the system are system people. So there's no real oversight and expectations. They paint a pretty picture. They're not very transparent about. You don't hear them out touting that only 30% of the third graders are reading at level. So it's not a lot of info going to the community, even as far as the keeping kids' identities secret from the parents. If they want to identify different at school, the teachers are beholden not to tell the parents, and they just don't let the community know what's actually going on.
Well, I'd like to say something too. And so the school board has been all teacher affiliated for the last 30 years. And the school board goes along with everything that gets passed down. Nobody has said no. Like Jeff Daly, who is an ex-teacher, started to say no. And so there's been no checks and balances from anybody outside of the school system. And until you have someone that's not tied into getting their paycheck from the school system, you won't have change. So that's why we're running to make change, real change, because it doesn't affect our paycheck. We can say no. So that's my opinion.
That's a good
really quick. I'm gonna break in really quick and let everybody know we are getting reports of a 4.3 magnitude earthquake that just that hit about probably about an hour ago now up at Port Hadlock. So if you notice some shaking, we're confirming that 4.3, 4 miles out of Port Hadlock. No reports of any damage, but we'll keep on top of that and keep you posted later in the show.
Ron, I had
Ron,
heard that's the second one. I'd heard there was one earlier further north.
yeah. So this is there's been a couple, and we're getting reports that it was felt up in Snohomish County through parts of Kitsap down into Mason. Even some reports of it being felt in Seattle. So we'll just keep an eye on it. 4.3 is not huge, and hopefully, well, and now Como is saying it was a 4.5, so we're getting a little bit of a different variance on the size and scope, but no reports of any damage or anything as of now. So we'll just keep an eye on it. Thanks for the people that are keen in letting us know. Rhonda, let me ask you a quick question. So one of the big things, and you guys have talked about it, is the lack of transparency, right? The school districts don't want to relay anything to the parents. They don't want to solicit any feedback from the parents. It feels like, as a parent whose child goes to the Bremerton School District, different school district, but I think much of the same feelings from parents, right? That we're kind of out of the process, we're out of the communication path. So you get elected. Let's say the three of you guys get elected. How do you begin to start undoing that? Because I feel like that's a culture-wide issue in the school district. I mean, it certainly starts with the school board, but it goes down to the people that work in the office and the principals and the staff and the bus barn and all of that. How do you start to change the culture that's so embedded?
Well, they say that they want parental involvement, but everything they do is saying, no, we don't want your involvement. And it starts from the school board meeting. It's held in a very small room. It's always filled with some staff, and they really do not want us there. They've gone from 2 meetings where they would normally allow us to speak to now just 1 meeting a month that you're allowed to speak. And so they don't advertise what they're going to be talking about at the school board meetings. They don't communicate with the parents. They don't remind them of the upcoming meeting and what is going to be discussed. They don't share information on their financials as far as what various projects are taking place and how much money is being spent. They don't talk about reducing admin cost, although OSPI has said we have way more admin than what we should have for the number of students that we have. They don't communicate with the parents that have left the system to find out, why did they leave? What can we do to bring you back? Because I don't think they really want to know the answer. So starting a meeting at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, that doesn't allow parents to get off work, travel, pick up maybe kids from daycare, get them home and get to the meeting. The Port Orchard City Council, they start their meeting at 6:30. Which is great. It gives everyone time to get there, and you can speak at the beginning of the meeting. At the end of the meeting, anyone that has got there late can also speak. So I feel like we need to open it up. We need to communicate with the parents better. We need to get them involved, coming to events. We need to use the communication system that's already there, paid for and available. And we need to move to a different time. We need to do quarterly town hall meetings. I just think we can do a much better job communicating with the parents and truly wanting their involvement.
And Jamie, I'm going to pose the same question to you, but before I do that, when they made the decision to cut back from 2 meetings to 1, did they give a reason why? Were there not a lot of parents who showed up to speak, and there just wasn't enough feedback, or what was the reason for that?
They said they needed to go to a special meeting. And because they weren't able to conduct enough business at the regular public meeting, so a special meeting has no public input, no public comment. They just get together and I thought they were going to discuss like education and some stuff that mattered, but the first one was they had the lunch program come in and give a 2.5 hour presentation on what the lunch program does and how everybody works so hard, and I'm sure they do, but there's really not a lot of substance of education coming from that. And then the last one was the transportation department came in and gave a big presentation about the bus drivers and what they're doing there. And
Electric buses.
once again, still really not a lot on education, And back to your last question, I think a lot of what we need to do is we need to get in there and put the board is in control of the superintendent, hiring, firing, keeping them around. I think some pressure needs to be put on the superintendent to do his job, and that's his job, is to focus on why the kids aren't getting better scores and we aren't getting better results, and nobody seems to be holding his feet to the fire on anything. He's collecting $250,000 a year and just kind of going with the flow, and the expectations are really vague and low. So there really needs to be some strong expectations put in place, and that's the job of the board to do that. They put the expectations out, and then he has to respond. So that's going to be the biggest bang right there to get the ball moving. And then other ideology type stuff, the board can write resolutions and maybe put an education committee together to focus on maybe why we're not getting the results. So.
And it almost feels like they made that decision and then realized they had to fill something in that non-public involved meeting that would eat up the entire time frame. So let's get a presentation by the lunch folks and a presentation by the transportation folks, and maybe the custodians will do next time. Okay, we're gonna put you guys on hold for a sec. We got a commercial break coming up right around the corner. Again, it's Outlaw Radio Network. We got Rhonda Edwards, District 5, John Zamel, District 1, Jamie Cross, District 2. They're all running for South Kitsap School Board. We'll head to this commercial break. We're back after this. This is Outlaw on Mega Talk Radio. All right, are we back on Facebook there, Tom?
Yes, sir. Hey,
we do have an update from the Northwest Weather Service Tsunami Alerts Service that a tsunami is not expected, by the way.
Good.
From our little earthquake, yeah. Yeah, you're on Facebook, so where all you want.
Yeah. Hey, with that in mind, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Pay attention to your chat. I'll give you the 2-minute, 1-minute warnings via text.
I saw that. That's why I knew, Tom. Thank you. You're a pro.
It doesn't show you as having seen it. That's why I wasn't sure.
Oh, no, I saw it.
Put it in a private chat.
Good.
In StreamYard.
Okay. And then just so you know, Philip, I'm going to enter into StreamYard on my laptop as well. But leave me leave me off on that camera because the internet here is acting up.
No problem.
Gets $1 million single purchases.
Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if you wanted to carry on this conversation on the Facebook side, or are we going to stay casual until we come back to AM?
You got 40 seconds.
We got 40 seconds. So let me just say this. Let me encourage you to, if you're listening to this tonight, to get out and vote. These are the races that really matter. These local national races, your vote in Kitsap County is going to make a little bit of a difference, but it's outweighed by hundreds of thousands of millions of votes across the country or the state. But when you're voting in these races, you'll see some of these races decided by less than 20 votes. So your race, your vote is really important in these races. So stick around. Outlaw Radio Network coming back on the AM right around the break.
Yeah, you were almost there, Kevin.
I tried really hard.
8 seconds off, buddy.
I tried really hard, buddy. Outlaw Radio. I promise.
Hey, Phil, does that mean we're back?
I don't know how to shoot you more here from behind the glass.
No.
Pew, 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 pew.
Remember, folks, we are trained professionals. Please do not try this at home.
Hey, I was gonna call this our casual Friday.
That's right. It's casual Friday. And the best part about this camera angle is none of you can see if I'm wearing pants. All right. Outlaw Radio. Again, we're joined. One more segment. We're on to Edwards District 5, John Zamel District 1, Jamie Cross District 2, all running for South Kitsap School Board. John, I want to ask you a really specific question from our conversation last week, last month. One of the most common comments I received back from listeners was in regards to the statements you made about your faith.
Oh.
And some of them were really supportive. They thought it was cool. They were glad you were upfront about it. And some people said, "Boy, I don't know how that's gonna jive with school." There's the argument of the separation of church and state, and do we really want somebody who's really big in the Bible to be representative of the school district? So I just want to give you the opportunity. How do you respond to that when you've been so upfront about your faith and people say, "Well, I don't know if we want a really big Christian guy to be up front and center at the school board meetings"? How do you respond?
Wow. Well, well, there's a lot of different ideas that are going through my head. But I think what I would say is that I believe in truth, and I believe that all children should be cared for, and I believe that the heart of God the Father, if you know him, is for the children and for the lost. And I want to help those in the children. I'm not and I think what can happen is it looks like I'm coming from a place of judgment where I'm not. I don't want to come from that place, but I am going to stand up for what is true and what is right. And when I see things that aren't, I'm going to say, "Hey, that's not okay with me." And I would hope that everybody will see that if it's rape, or if it's, kids getting beat up, or stuff that's stolen. Like we gotta get back to the foundations of the Constitution, and our forefathers believed in God, and it's on our dollar bill. Like, everybody wants God out of the conversation, but the further you get God out of the conversation, the worse your society is going to be. I'm sorry to say, but that's the truth. And if that's offensive, I'm sorry, but I want to stand up for the Constitution. I want to stand up for people's rights, and yeah, I do believe in Jesus Christ.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for the straight up answer, man. I appreciate it. Nancy asked in chat, I'm going to pose this to you guys. How can you work with the other school districts, not only around Kitsap, but around the state, to make sure that your guys' needs are heard at a higher level? Obviously, the local school districts are somewhat dependent upon decisions made in Olympia for funding and direction and required curriculum. How do you guys work with other districts, or how will you work with other districts to get your needs heard at Olympia and above?
I think we get in. All the other districts are in the same boat as SK with all the insider control. I think some new people in there with different new ideas maybe start making a difference, and the grades start going up. I think the other school districts would have no choice but to take notice and look into what we're doing and maybe start making some changes.
I think we have to ask the questions. When the scores came out for third grade reading, that only 38% of the kids, and that's an average. Some schools did better, some did worse.
Now, is that a statewide average? Is that a county average?
That is South Kitsap.
Okay.
South Kitsap, only 38% of the third graders could read at third grade level at the end of the year. What I don't see at the school board is any reflection to look at, gosh, we have a problem. Now, how can we solve it? What are other districts using for curriculum? Are other districts doing better than us? And we can get that information through OSPI. I haven't seen any other district doing significantly better than us other than Bainbridge Island. And I believe Central Kitsap was doing a little better than us.
Well, if you get off the Kitsap Peninsula and head somewhere like Mercer Island, there's a lot of money on Mercer Island. People dump a ton of money into the school district there.
Yeah. So the
They have good
question would
scores.
be, what curriculum are they using? Are they teaching phonics? Are they still teaching cursive? And how is that affected? How much time is the teacher given for reading? Are the teachers here? Are they, educated to teach third grade reading? They should be. So I think you have to look at other district scores, and the ones that are doing really well, then we call their board of directors and we ask them, can we come and meet with you? We want to know what you're doing for third grade and how you're achieving such high scores. And I think we need to bring our third grade teachers together. Is this a teacher problem, or is it a time allocation problem? Is it a curriculum problem? I think if we brought all of our third grade teachers together, we would get a lot of information from them and we could support them. And that's my goal, is to support the teachers. I want them to feel safe in high school classes. I want them to be able to feel pride at the end of the year when they see how well their teachers have, how well their students have done, because that's a reflection on how good of a teacher they are. So I want to support the teachers, and we have to ask the questions.
Are the teachers the missing piece in this conversation? Because I've heard that a lot of teachers are unhappy with the way that education has been guided. A lot of teachers are unhappy with the lack of control in the classroom. They're unhappy that kids are allowed to bring their phones and dink around on them the entire time during class. They feel responsible for low test scores, but they're not given the support they feel they need in order to help bring those up. Is South Kitsap specifically, do you feel like they're listening to the frontline teachers enough in designing resolutions for these?
No. They are not supporting the high school teacher who is reporting that a student is being disruptive in class, is not following directions, is showing disrespect. They don't even bother to report it because they know nothing will be done. The student will still be there the next day doing the same thing over and over again. And meanwhile, that teacher is unable to truly teach to the other kids in the classroom. So, if there's no conduct, no code of conduct behavior given and expectation and then consequences for bad behavior, then pretty soon there's no control in the classroom.
Well, and from what I've seen is there's no strategy in place with the current board and the superintendent, and they need to come up with a plan with involving the parents, because the parents are also bringing the product. The product is the child, and there needs to be a game plan between the school board, the Mr. Winters, and the parents, and we have to make a plan. There's no strategy ever talked about. It's just nonsense. It's like we should be talking about getting the third grade teachers together. Let's have them all come in instead of the janitors and the bus drivers. They're all important, but we've got to get a plan together, and there isn't one. There's just a bunch of bobbleheads and Mr. Winters and Hefe, and they do what they want, and that you don't get results that way. You just aren't going to. It's going to be the same thing happening next year, the year after.
It's funny you use bobblehead.
Yeah, it's just like, yep, that sounds good.
That's how we describe the governor around here.
Hey, and look what happens. We need people that are going to stand up for what is right and come up with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the other arguments to this conversation, though, is the amount of power the teachers union has. We keep hearing that the teachers union has been given too much power, and that power has really, really been given out at the state level. So how do you at a local level start to push back on the power that the Washington State Teachers Union has at a local level when the state, who is above you, is really kind of conceding a big chunk of that power?
That's an interesting question that you bring up there. The problem is the existing school board and all the candidates we're running against are all backed by the teachers union. So, and I don't think anybody's really done much pushback against the teachers union, because throughout the schools across the state, they back and get candidates elected. It's kind of rare to just have some community members getting in the race You know, a lot of years before, the teachers union would run 4 or 5 people in the primary, and by the time it came to the general election, it was just a matter of who got in. And I don't think anybody's really stepped in and pushed back against the teachers union. So I'm proud to not be backed by the teachers union. I'm community based.
We have no conflict of interest. You know, our kids aren't teachers. We're not teachers. We're not retired teachers. We're not retired principals. We're not married to a teacher. And so we are totally outside the academia world. And I think that's what is kind of wrong with the board right now. They are all in the same league with each other. They're all good friends. They all get along. And whatever Mr. Winters brings to the board, there's really no discussion. It goes straight to a vote, and 4 of them immediately nod their head yes, and it goes forward. You know, one of the things that we just recently found out is the board has delegated their duty in handling the financials to Mr. Winters. They have given him a $1 million purchase power per event. He does not have to come to the board. He does not have to disclose what he's buying before he buys it. And the only way we know about any of the expenses that are going out is because Jeff Daly actually goes and gets the warrants on Tuesdays before the meeting. He goes through a huge stack, and he ends up having questions and brings up expenses that he is finding. So there's a delegation there that they have delegated their duties and responsibilities to Mr. Winters, and they just go along with anything he says.
So let me ask for clarification then. So the superintendent has the authority from the school board to purchase what curriculum, school buses, whatever, up to that $1 million cap without having to report before the purchase is made.
Correct.
It'll end up being reported later because of public disclosure stuff. But by that point, it's really too late, right? The $1 million has been spent. What is just off the top of your head, what's the annual budget for the SK? Do you know what the annual budget in the South Kitsap School District is approximately?
Yeah, it's $275 million right now.
Okay. But he can, and it's $1 million per event. So
correct.
He could spend $1 million on Tuesday, $1 million on Friday, $1 million the following Thursday, different events, not requiring any kind of oversight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Jamie, you were going to say something? Oh, sorry.
Basically, Mr. Winters is the school board.
Yes.
The school board has given up all authority to Mr. Winters, and that's what's happened over the years. So.
And Jamie, really quick, you were going to say something as well?
Yeah, just get out on. I mean, the union ties go so deep. As Hefe Wilson, the president of the SK school board, his wife is actually on the South Kitsap Education Committee board. Oddly enough.
Yeah.
All right, we're up against break, guys. I just want to tell you guys, thank you so much for coming in. We're going to do this again. I'll be in touch, and we'll keep the conversation going. Outlaw Radio, we're going to switch gears. Coming around the corner. Stick around. It's Outlaw Radio. All right, everybody, we are on the Outlaw Radio Network as we're broadcasting live on our big Sunday night show. Thanks for checking out the show. We appreciate it. In studio tonight is our one and only Black Tom, and then we have some special guests coming in. And I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves because I have first names but no last names.
Oh, but I can do that too, there, buddy. I'm right here, man.
Good man. You're my hero, Tom. Black Tom is in studio.
So we've got Rob McGee running for fire commissioner, and we have Sean and Karina Murphy with the KCRP, and they're kind of getting to know some people and stuff. So I figured we'd just do a roundtable thing and chat some fire and chat some Republican Party stuff, and yeah, see what happens.
That sounds good, Sean and Karina Murphy, and of course Rob McGee. Guys, thanks for coming in. Sorry that both of your hosts are remote and doing this differently tonight. It's way different than we normally do. So thanks for being flexible and working with us. Let's open with the obvious question. Obviously, we've worked with the KCRP in interviews and stuff for the last several years, even going as far back as the leadership under Chris Tibbs, as many of you refer to those dark days. So I love Chris. Actually, I get to poke fun at Chris all I want to because we're friends. But Chris is a good guy. Talk about your guys' roles within the party. Kind of where are you at within the party, and just kind of give us a rundown.
Hi, I'm Karina Murphy. I have just recently stepped in as KCRP's social media manager for their Facebook page. I've been trying to blast a lot of, just events going on, trying to get the community together and, show them that, Republicans are people too. And, we're approachable and we can, find a good middle ground. And especially with everything going on in the world, I think a lot of people are looking for change and just being able to communicate and see that we have more in common than what people think.
So I'm Sean Murphy. I'm her husband, but I'm also the events committee chair for the Kitsap County Republican Party, seat that has been vacant for a little while. We realized that, with COVID, the big C word, we had kind of a collapse in community. We need more barbecues. We need more picnics, park cleanups, block parties, get families together, get people out talking again, and realizing we've got a lot more in common than the mainstream media wants us to think. And so we're trying to reach out to the community and build something to where we're now, back to the way things used to be, when we actually cared about our neighbors and paid attention and made sure that, we were all working together towards one goal.
Sounds good. And then sitting to your guys' right is the one and only. I'm so sad I'm not there to meet you in person, man. As Rob McGee joins us in studio, you're District 3 Commissioner candidate for South Kitsap Fire Rescue. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, position 3, actually. Yep, it's for the South Kitsap Fire Rescue position. A little bit about me. I mean, I'm a local business owner. I've been in the private fire industry my whole career, which delves into the fire protection, prevention, sprinklers, alarms. So I come from the private side, whereas, the district obviously is going to be in that public sector side when they do the firefighting itself. So I've definitely been in the industry, been around. It's been good to me and my family. And it was an opportunity. I've served on the Chamber of Commerce board for almost 7 years, and you got to know when it's time to move on and let somebody else step in. And it's kind of my time has run there, but I still wanted to be in a position in the community that would still put me in a position to give back in some way that's positive and has an impact. And the seat came up, and I said, this is in my wheelhouse, and I'm gonna run for this. I think we need some perspective and change in our local governance.
Well, thanks again to all you guys for coming in tonight. So I think we're gonna stay party focused for about the next 8 minutes or so as we come up to the top of the hour, and then I really want to dedicate the next half hour to Rob to get his message out about what he's running for and what he's hoping to do. So from a party perspective, let's go back a little historically, right? Kitsap County Republican Party about 8 years or so ago had a really good handle on Kitsap County as a whole. Most of the seats in the 26th were held by Republican candidates. The party had done really well. The last couple of years, it seems like it's slid away a little bit. Obviously, Jesse Young went down to Emily Randall. I still hate all of you who voted for Emily Randall. You guys really need to have your noggins examined. Spencer Hutchins won, but very narrowly. That was a pretty close race. Michelle Caldier's done a pretty good job holding on to her seat. But it does feel like there's been a little bit of a sway within, especially the 26th, away from Republican candidates. You go up north, and obviously the Democrats hold really strong up in the north end. So how do you guys, as a party, start to sway that back in the 26th and make a dent up north where the Democrats have really been strong? How do you begin that process?
Well, I think the biggest way that we can begin that process is, like I said, community. Community is really where it comes down to for us. I've been in Washington State since 1995 when I got out here with the Navy. And I've spent time moving back and forth from the peninsula to West Seattle to the peninsula, back and forth. And what we've seen is apathy. I've seen a lot of people just say, hey, my vote isn't going to matter. Why should I vote? This is a blue state. We can't fight against the blue state. But what I'm also seeing is, people who maybe identify as Republican are starting to stick their heads up without being afraid that it's going to get cut off. So more and more people are starting to get out there and kind of have those discussions about how can we get involved? How can we help? And, as you were saying earlier in the show, these local elections are the most important elections that we have. We have got to operate at a local level, work with our friends and our neighbors to link arms and make that positive impact right at that local level, and then we can send out those ripple waves.
And if I can add to that, after taking over the social media page, I think there hasn't been very much communication within the party itself as far as its messaging, as far as making sure that people are up to date with meetings they can go to, events, places where they can make a difference. I'm trying to put effort into changing that, making sure that people know when school board meets or when the KCRP meets, and making sure that everybody can become on the same page. Speaking of that, quick plug, the Parkwood Community Club, we are actually throwing an event this Friday at 4:00. You can meet the candidates that were just on before us. They're going to be serving pizza and ice cream, and we're doing a silent auction to help raise funds for the Parkwood Community Club to help fix their pool. I think it's a great way to reach out to the community and talk to people one-on-one.
Well, you had me at pizza and ice cream. I'll show up for pizza and ice cream anytime. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, more ice cream than pizza, but definitely
pizza on your ice cream.
How about ice cream on your pizza?
Shut up, Tom. I hate you. Has the key messaging of the KCRP changed? I mean, has the main goal of the KCRP changed as far as what its key points are, or is now just a matter of just re-communicating that in a clearer way to the population of Kitsap?
I think that's exactly it. It's more about communicating in a clear way, and to be honest, we need to fill seats in the party. We need more community involvement. When I came into the events committee as the chair, it's a committee of one. So, now it's a committee of three. We need to get more of that community involvement. And so a lot of it isn't, let's make a new message. A lot of it is, let's take that message that we have and let's get more people involved in the community so that we can carry that message further.
For most of the meetings that we've attended, I mean, it still stands by the same message of, building from what the Constitution was put in place for, standing, behind our citizens and having the rules be coming from them, not from the top down. The message is still the same. I think some of the wording around it might have changed a little bit, but honestly, I think just kind of revamping the image of the party itself is important, and not a bunch of stodgy old men. We like to have fun and pizza and ice cream, and we're just not a whole bunch of old suits anymore.
Hey, Kevin.
Sure.
Check. Yeah. Oh, there you are. I was going to say, check your mute button, buddy, because your lips are moving, but no noise was coming out.
I don't know. I blame the internet. Bill Gates is trying to silence us. Blame Bill.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what Karina said. I think one of the most common misconceptions of the Republican Party is it's a bunch of old white guys that are running the party, that are in charge, and that's all they're going to put up. I mean, if you look at Rob McGee, he is not an old guy. If you look at Karina, she's neither old nor a guy. If you look at Sean, he's not old, right? So you guys, so how do you appeal to the younger demographic who believes that everything Republican is old, stodgy, the way of yesteryear? How do you do that?
Well, I don't know if you've heard of this thing called memes, but that speaks to you. Honestly, we just had at our last meeting, we were talking about which candidates that are running for governor are the ones that we want to endorse. And I don't know if you guys have mentioned Semi Bird very much, but
we've had him on a couple times.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he has a huge backing within the party. Everybody's really pushing to help get his message in. I think he's the farthest you can get away from old white man. So, I mean, we're making changes wherever we can, and I'm here to help broadcast that message.
Well, if you don't mind me jumping into, the KCRP was generous enough to offer their endorsement to me, which I proudly accept, and more from the fact that I don't have an R next to my name, but they looked at me for my credentials and what I bring to the table. And I think it's important that the KCRP, they want you to be a Republican. They want you to have those values, but they also look at the values of someone like me who really isn't part of a Democrat or a Republican situation here. And they're willing to look at that and not just say, you don't have an R, you're out. They're actually looking at me for what I bring to the table. And I actually really appreciate that they did that. I think it's really important that they can remove the letter from the side of it and say, this is a guy we can depend on. And it made me feel great as a candidate.
Well, thank you for clearing that up too, Robert. I appreciate that. I don't want to misrepresent your association or staying with the KCRP. So thank you for being clear about that. Let me ask this.
Rob's fellow gold.
Is he a fellow gold?
Yeah, we're taking over.
Yeah. Well,
we're taking over slowly, but we're taking over.
Thank God there's two of you.
It's all
Sean and Karina, let me ask this as a two-part question. We're right up against the top of the hour break. If people want to find out more, they want to find out how they can get involved, they want to follow you guys on your social media sites, how do they do that?
Well, absolutely. You can go to the Kitsap County Republican Party on Facebook. You can also find us directly on Kitsap Community Builders. It's a little side project of ours to try to help inject some extra, community love, get people together working towards that. Also, you can find some of the events that we're doing, such as October 21st, we're going to do a dictionary drive for inmates with a chili cook-off at the Republican Party headquarters. It's a great chance to get down there, meet some of us, and realize we're not a bunch of old vampires.
Yeah,
outstanding.
The best way to get a hold of us directly is definitely Kitsap Community Builders on Facebook. I just shouted out this morning that we were going to be on today. So if anybody's looking for anything that you're tagged in, they can find us.
Very nice.
All right, we are right up against the top of the hour, guys. I want to thank Sean and Karina for coming in and hanging out and telling us a little bit about the KCRP. Let's get you guys on when we have more time.
Yeah, we'll set that up again here soon. So,
all right,
this is Outlaw
Robert
Radio.
McGee is next.
Yeah. All right, mister.
Them recognize,
All right, so it looks like we're back here on the Facebook only side. Sean and Karina, before you guys leave, do you guys have any other events coming up that you want to? We'll have them put their headphones on really quick.
Yeah.
Sean and Karina, do you guys have any other events you want to put out there for people that are coming up around the corner that you have planned?
Well, we're going to be definitely getting some more events onto the books, but right now, the biggest ones are Friday. Come meet your school board candidates for South Kitsap at the Parkwood Community Club. We're going to be working hard to save that pool. And on October 21st at the party headquarters, come down with your best chili recipe, and we're going to do a dictionary drive. It's the second most requested book by inmates, and we're going to try to help make a difference in that area.
And just to reemphasize the one on Friday, the Parkwood Community Club, the pool has been around for over 50 years, helping a lot of people in the community. The pool is falling apart. So we are holding a silent auction. We've already made a number of trips to a number of businesses, gotten a lot of donations, grocery outlets giving us ice cream. The pizza joint right down here in Town Square Mall, they are donating pizzas for the event. If anybody out there that's listening has any items they think that they would want to help out the pool with by auctioning off. If they would like to donate, they can message us on Facebook at the Kitsap Community Builders Facebook page, and we will reach out to you and coordinate a time to pick up that before Friday.
Well, and if one of you want to reach out to me, one of the businesses that I work with in my part-time is with Kitsap Great Escape, which is out in Silverdale, the only escape room in Kitsap County, with now 4 exciting rooms to serve you, including the new Halloween room, free plug. But reach out to me. I'll reach out to ownership, and we might be able to get you guys a in-kind donation as well for the auction. So reach out to me publicly. Yeah. I think that they'd be on board to help out with that.
And absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, and come back and see me. I've got something figured out that I can give you guys too.
That's one of the things we've noticed the most is Kitsap County small businesses have been so generous and so anxious to help with community. Coming in new at this kind of a thing, it's been mind-blowing to see everybody step forward and be willing to help out. It's been big.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding. Well, listen, Sean and Karina, thanks for coming in. We'll do this again.
Yes, and thank you for allowing us to come in and shamelessly plug our event.
Yeah, and please let me know when there's more pizza and ice cream involved. I'll make sure I appear at all of this.
VIP list. All right, so just to give the listeners an idea what's coming up when we come back on the AM side of things, again, Robert McGee is in studio. He's running for position 3 for the South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Commissioner. So we'll talk with Robert about his candidacy and what he hopes to do. And let's be honest, I don't think most people who pay attention to this show have any idea what a fire and rescue commissioner does. So we're gonna delve into that a little bit and find out what his goal is in running for that. And then coming up at about 9:30, I think we're gonna dive into what we've seen happen in Israel over the last 36 hours or so. The awful just scenes, the humanity of the entire process. We'll get into some supposition as well about what this means for Iran, what this means for the U.S., what this means for the Soviets. I'm sorry, the Russians, not Soviets anymore. I'm an idiot.
There's a global picture.
Yeah, there's a huge global picture that comes out of this, and this may just be the first shoe to drop in this scenario. So we're going to come back just a couple of moments. I'm going to throw it over to Philip, I think, and have him play a little bit of music. And
we have about a minute to kill here.
Yeah, well, I was going to. Okay.
Yeah.
How's your week, Tom?
It was busy. I met Sean and Karina yesterday. They just wandered into the distillery and conversation led to, where we are now. And, I've been out helping stuff and, he and I chatted. When did we set this up?
I think late last week.
Yeah.
We set it up, yeah. By the way, Sean is I've met him at a few events locally here. Great guy. Just a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with. I mean, we spent probably an hour chatting in the tasting room, and those two don't drink, so we didn't drink a drop. We just sat there and talked politics and community. They're super cool people.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be an asset here for sure.
Yeah. So, but just that little sidebar should be taking us pretty close to our
Philip. About 10 seconds. Outlaw Radio Network.
Back after this.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's all right.
We're the idiots in.
A bunch of a-holes.
Hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me. I'm hooked on a feeling.
All right, welcome back. I have no idea what time it is. I'm terrible at this. Anyways, say what? Oh, is it 9 o'clock now? Welcome to the 9 o'clock hour of the Outlaw Radio Network. Hey, Kevin, you still with us?
I'm still with you. I am here with bells on.
Bells even. All right.
Bells with bells even.
With bells even. It's a little early for bells. Knock it off.
Well, no, it's 9 o'clock, man, on a Sunday night. Tomorrow's a holiday. This should be a traditional drinking show, by the way. We'll talk about that later.
I thought you were suggesting, Christmas stuff or something with the bells.
Let's ask our guest about this. Our guest is Robert McGee. He's running for position 3 of the South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Commissioner seat. And Robert, the most important question I'm going to ask you tonight is what I'm asking you right now. When is it too early to play Christmas music?
Oh boy, that is the question of the day. It's too early before December 1st.
Oh, thank you. See, for people that start before Halloween, I think we should be allowed to kill them and use their rotting corpse as a Halloween decoration.
Oh my God. Well, sadly, my wife is probably watching, and she loves the 106.9 Christmas station. And as soon as it comes on in November, it starts. It starts.
Oh, it's too soon.
Hey man, what can I say? She loves Christmas music.
Yeah.
I think we should be doing it in we should be doing it now.
July, you lunatic. What's up, Phil?
I was going to ask, now when should we stop playing Christmas music?
Maybe never.
December 24th?
I don't know. I think New Year's is a nice cutoff, right? I mean, that's a new year. You can cut it off right there.
I know. We can start on the 24th. We can end on the 24th. We can just be done.
Such an extremist.
Yeah, bah humbug.
All right, so we're joined live in studio there with, again, it's Black Tom in studio. Bob Ross is behind the boards. Kdawg remotely broadcasting live from a sunny location in San Diego. It's just, I'll talk about it later in the show, but it has just been gorgeous down here. I thought I was going to hate California. And I hate California, but San Diego's been amazing.
The pictures you posted are literally across the street from where I grew up.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm in I've been telling everybody on here I know Tom.
Yeah, no one remembers me.
That's right. But we are joined in studio as well with Robert McGee, South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Position 3 Commissioner candidate. And Robert, thanks for coming in. We knew we had a little bit of alterations to the schedule and everything. So thanks for being so flexible tonight, man. We appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. And actually, it's interesting because, years prior, you never really hear people talk about the fire commissioner's race. It's really not, debated. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of debate being it's an oversight commission, but you just don't see many people really talk about it. And there's been a lot more interest this election cycle for whatever reason, but I think it's good. I think it's good because they carry a big budget, and it's an important thing that we have to have here locally with the fire service. So I'm glad people are talking about it.
Well, normally I have a candidate explain, why they are the person to do the job. But I think before we can do that, can we start with actually just a discussion about what the fire commissioner does? Like, what does the job entail that you're running for, so that the listeners have an idea what they're considering putting you in place to do?
It's actually the number one question I get. People don't know what the fire commissioner's role is. As a fire prevention contractor, I've had people say, "Isn't that a conflict of interest? You'll be making decisions for your company." No. We're not the fire marshal. It's not what we do. And so the commissioner's office, or the commission's board, I should say, they're a board of 5. And there's 5 that they are the commission that oversees the budgets and resources to make sure they're spending it judiciously, as intended, and wisely for the district. So the role of the commission is to be the advocates on behalf of the community, make sure things are going smoothly. And in the district, obviously, administration runs the district, and they talk and communicate with the board on needs they have or how things are going. And it's the commission's job to make sure that they have the resources they need within the resources that the community actually allows them to have. And I'm sure we'll get into that conversation a little bit more.
So now let's talk about your qualifications. Obviously, as you'd said in the last segment of the last hour, you're not currently in the fire service. You're on the private side of it, not the public sector side. So talk about how that experience of what you've done on the private sector is going to come into play.
Yeah, I think that, dealing with a budget of that size, it's important to have some business and management experience. And I bring that to the table. I've been, running a business since 2005, managing the staff and labor for that long before that in my career as a superintendent. So I know how to work with people. I'm very collaborative. Working on the Chamber of Commerce board, you have to be very collaborative to get solutions done, and I like to see a balance on a board. You don't generally see someone from my sector of the industry, on a commission. Traditionally, not always, but traditionally, you'll see them come up through the fire district. A lot of times, retired firefighters and things of that scope, which are great. You need some of that perspective on a commission, but for me, seeing the district support wane with failing a levy last November, barely passing this levy that we just ran here in August, we've got a support issue. So something needs to change, that we should be passing levy by 60-70%. The fire service has usually just never had issues with that, and something's amiss. And so I don't know what that is, but I want to help be a solution solver to finding out what that challenge is, because these needs aren't going to go away and they're going to become more pressing, especially as you saw, with the levy, they were very explicit on the numbers they have, and they're going to break call volume numbers again this year. They're going to be well over 13,000. And so they're addressing more calls than anybody else in Kitsap. They rely heavily on their ILA with other districts to help them out, which is unfortunate because that strains on these other districts who, really don't want to help us out all the time. So we need to be able to help ourselves. And the goal is, how do we do that? How do we get the budgets and resources when we can't keep going back to the well all the time to the community? And so we've got to get creative through grants or other funding means. And that's what we need to try to do. And at the same time, be streamlined, efficient, use those monies wisely that we are allotted by the community. And right now, my number one goal getting in there is to make sure that we earn back the trust of the 48% of the people who didn't vote for the levy and show that we are going to spend these monies wisely and as intended. It's important to get that trust back.
How does the funding mechanisms work? You talked about finding funding mechanisms. What's the primary funding mechanism? Is it off of property taxes? Is it off of funding directly from the county? How does that come in? And then how do you find or create different funding sources without increasing the burden on local taxpayers?
Well, it is property tax is the biggest resource for the district, and every 6 years they run a levy. They're an off year, so this year was the fire EMS levy, or I'm sorry, this is the fire levy, and then the EMS levy, I believe, runs in 3 or 4 years, and that's the 50 cents per thousand. And then this one was the one they took back up to $1.50 from $1.09. So yes, the majority of their funding does come from property taxes. They do get funding from alternate sources. Ambulatory care they'll get through insurance rates on that, as long as they can bill for it. There's a lot of ambulatory transports that they don't get paid for, which is something that I think should be looked at a little bit more. Taking the life safety aspect out of it and just looking at it purely from a business perspective, how do we mitigate some of those losses? As a businessman, we don't want to see money going out the door. And while it's a public service, it still is money out the door. So we need to make sure that we're watching how those things are happening and how we can solve those problems, so we're not losing money on certain applications of the district. And, coming from the outside, I got to get in the weeds on some of this stuff. I don't have all the answers, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind closed doors that I'm just not involved in. So, one of the first things I tell people is I've got to get up to speed. My first 6-12 months, I got to really dive in there with the other commissioners and make sure I get up to speed as quickly as possible and make sure that I'm helping them make good decisions.
Now, some people are going to ask you, you bring up that lack of experience on that side of things and bringing yourself up to speed. Mm-hmm. I'm sure some people have already said to you, well, why would we elect you? You're not a fireman. You haven't had any experience in the fire department. You don't, you're going to need time to get up to that. How do you respond to that?
Well, you don't need me there to tell them how to do the jobs. South Kitsap Fire and Rescue are some of the most professional firefighters that are trained like you can't believe. These guys know how to do their jobs. What it comes down to is budgets and resources all the time. No matter what they need or what they do, it always comes down to budgets and resources. They need a new engine, budgets and resources. They need new bunker gear, budgets and resources. They need new facilities, budgets and resources. So the operational part of it, these guys got it. I mean, you can't take anything away from these guys. I know a lot of them personally, and they are some of the most dedicated people you will ever meet. And so that's why we've got a really good administration to work with. We've got a great chief that we've got right now, and Jeff Fawcett, who's fantastic to talk to and deal with, and he's sharp. And you've got these trained professionals out there. So I don't need to focus so heavily on that side. The other reason why is I've got other commissioners on there that have that experience. I'll be able to lean on that expertise that they have. The commission is of 5 for a reason. no one can be the expert of all things. So I'm going to have to lean on them for some of that experience that they have over the top of me, and then bring my skill sets to the table to complement that. So I'm not here to be the end all be all. I'm here to be a piece of the puzzle that's going to help solve some of these problems.
So is it safe to say then that you're going to allow, and I mean this in a positive way, you're going to allow the people who know the fire end of things to remain the expert of the fire end of things, and you're looking at this as, how do we fix the funding issues? How do we get resources where they're needed? How do we handle the, I don't want to say that the back end of things, but the administrative more than the operational? Is that?
No, I wouldn't say that. You still need to pay attention to that. So operations and how they run things still is important. In finding out how they're doing it, I need to be a guy who can say, well, why are we doing that? And should we do things a different way? Is there a different way we should be looking at it? So I wouldn't say that I'm not going to pay attention to how operations work. That would be foolish. I definitely need to pay attention to that, because if they can operate in a more efficient manner, well, we should probably be looking at that. Having different perspectives and new ideas and how they operate the facilities is something that I'd like to do and ask, but I'm not going to come in there, to make the statement, I'm going to come in here and change this, and I'm going to change that as soon as I get in there. Well, that's just foolish. Just make that statement. That would be me coming out in there out of ignorance. I need to get educated on certain things before I can start making any types of statements like that. However, there's always a better way we can do things. There's always a way to look at something different. And we need to make sure that we're not getting stuck into, 50-year-old systems of structure that they've had in place forever. We need to be able to ask those what if and why questions. And it may lead us to the right answers, right? Even if a certain idea doesn't stick, at least we're having the conversation so we can get to the idea that is going to stick. And so, no, you definitely have to look at all aspects of it. In the beginning, obviously with my background, being from the business side, I'm going to look at that first, because that's kind of my meat and potatoes, right? It's an easy one for me to look at, is numbers and see where things are going. But we definitely do need to have those conversations on how they're operating, where they're operating, and the chief's doing a good job of keeping me informed of some of the ideas he's had, and I'm glad that he does that, so I can be up to speed on what they're thinking about.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Without pointing fingers at anyone else in the organization or whatever, what do you think the biggest obstacle is to the commissioners right now?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know that it's any one particular thing. One of the biggest challenges for the fire district, and I would say, I guess, for the district and the commissioners as a whole, is our fight for budget and resources. It's not with the community. A lot of people think it's a community thing. We got to get budgets and resources to the community. Well, that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is they're battling for budgets and resources from the counties and cities. They're gobbling up all these resources, all the tax increases, impact fees that went through the roof in the city of Port Orchard. Mm-hmm. And so they're always being, from my perspective, I see the district being very reactive instead of proactive. We've got to be on top of these things that are happening around us in the city and the county, especially there. There's things in the legislature too that they got to pay attention to as well. But they have a few more people to help them out, from the state side. But locally here, they have got to be watching what's going on. The city of Port Orchard's impact fees went up 568%. And now there's conversations from the district and my opponent thinking the KBA is going to help him write impact fees for the fire district. I really don't think the room's reading that way. I don't think that's going to be the case, especially with the increases that they've had. And frankly, I don't believe the KBA is going to get behind that. My opponent's already wanting to build fire stations as soon as possible. And while we need to have that conversation on when that can take place, I don't think the time is now. We are barely passing levies. And if we think we're going to be able to get any kind of bond funding right now, I think it's unrealistic. And so I want to be realistic about what we can do, when we can do it, have the conversations when it's appropriate. And, again, advocate for the community first, but we have to advocate for the fire district when it's appropriate too. And so there's a balance we have to have there when we're doing that to when we go out for levies or go out for bonds. It's got to be the right timing. You do it at the wrong time, you're not going to like the result.
One of the challenges with South Kitsap is the region's growing like mad. They've just added a whole bunch more development up near McCormick Woods. We're seeing a whole bunch of other construction all throughout the South Kitsap area. Yep. How do you balance that huge amount of growth without the knee-jerk reaction that, as you mentioned, some people, well, we need to start building more. We need, how do you balance the budgetary constraints that come with that?
Well, part of the issue is that reactive proactive scenario, right? I think if they would have actually gone after some impact fees maybe 2-3 years ago, I think they'd have had a good shot at getting those, because they passed the levy on the premise that they need it for this growth and support. And it was well documented, well put out there. And I agree with them. They do need this support. The levy was important for them to pass. But with them already looking to other funding resources, I can already see the writing on the wall. It's not enough. So where are we going to get that from, right? If we can't get an impact fee pushed through, and understand, South Kitsap Fire isn't just city; it's South Kitsap, so it's part of Kitsap County as well. So if we're going to put forth that type of a monetary draw, we're going to have to do it in both locations. And can we get it done? And will the community support it? I don't know. One of the biggest foul play cries right now is affordable housing. And let's be honest, it's not affordable. There was a poll recently on the news: 99% of counties, not states, counties. 99% of counties across the country are reporting unaffordable housing in their counties. And so when we continue to escalate these fees, it just makes it really difficult. And it makes it difficult on fire. Fire needs these budgets and resources. I kind of equate fire to kind of like our military. It's one of those services that our government provides that we have to have. We have to be able to protect our citizens. And I feel the fire service falls into that category of protecting our citizens. So how do we fund it when all the budgets and resources are being sucked up by other agencies around our area that really, if I'm just being blunt, they just don't give a crap how it affects the other districts. The city doesn't care how it affects the county doesn't care how it affects the city, and vice versa to the fire, and even schools for that matter. When we can't get more property tax funding for fire and schools, it's really a dead end situation for us. And now we're struggling to find other funding resources. It's an uphill battle, and I know that going into this position, but we're going to have to get creative and figure out how to get it.
So, Rob, I know you and I think a lot alike when it comes to government finance and stuff. How much do you think is just bureaucratic waste? How much of that how much money do you think you can save there?
Are you saying within the district or in general?
Well, I don't know, because those, like you've been describing, those two things overlap so much. So, of course, if there's bureaucratic waste in the county, that's going to affect the fire commission. You only have so much of control over that.
Well, when you're talking about how the county and the city affect the fire district, that really just comes to the resources available, right? The city is an easy one because I pay attention to the city a lot more than the county. There's only so much you can watch all the time. But they doubled water connection fees. Water fees have gone up. Sewer fees have gone up. Stormwater fees have gone up. The impact fees have gone up. And now the district comes in later. Hey, we're thinking about going to have an impact fee. And it's like, you're a little late to the party, right? I don't want to be late to the party as a district. I want to be there when the party starts, because that's how we fund our fire district properly. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that we are putting the administration in a position as a commission that they can get to the party early. And they're not getting blindsided by, city passed a property tax ordinance, 12-year long. It was a 12-year, I believe, long-term property tax exemption for developers. Well, who does that affect? Fire and schools.
Everybody, yeah.
And it blindsided them.
Right.
And it was unfair because the city in this particular instance was making a policy change that affected other agencies potentially dramatically. Now, I don't know that the financial impact was that great, but holy smokes, it certainly could be over a long-term time. Now, my understanding is they may be repealing that property tax exemption, which is good. But the fact of the matter is they did it, and the fire district was blindsided by it. And I don't want to see that happen to our fire district. Again, it's a service that we need. And you ask anybody in the community, do they believe in the fire service? I don't think you'll ever get a no. You're not going to get a no. Now, funding it, that's when the no's come in, right? And it just really comes down to, can people afford it? And, we've seen what's happened with inflation and the value of the dollar. All that stuff comes into play, unfortunately, and it's been hard on our district.
Well, and there's responsible spending within the district itself.
And I think that was what you're alluding to with your question with that portion.
Well, it kind of, because we know that the school district, the school board has a history with, not being transparent with the community.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that a problem you see going into,
I would say the fire district is pretty transparent for the most part. There's been a few statements when I've met with a few people that did rub me wrong. Why didn't you discuss this during the levy? Well, people can public records request that. That is the last thing to say to me. When you tell me I have to get a public records request, that means you're not being transparent. And that was just a single case that took place in one of my conversations. But on a whole, the district puts most of their stuff out there on their webpage. You can find it. They're not hiding anything. And I love that about them, because you can actually go in there and dive into the weeds. And if you have a question, you can call the chief and he will answer you that day. He will pick up the phone and he will call you and he will explain it to you. In fact, him and I were talking about the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, the other day, just because it's a little complicated. And I wanted to understand some of the nuances that are going on with the collective bargaining agreement. And it made sense after I got into the weeds with him on it, just saying, hey, some of these things are written a little difficult to read, as a lot of CBAs are. My background actually is a card carrying union member, and I actually am still a signatory union contractor. So I understand a lot of the nuances that go on with the union, which I think will benefit me in this position. But boy, they do like to put a lot of fancy language in those CBAs. So you got to kind of, it's like reading Greek and you got to decipher it. Yeah. So, but it did make sense. And a lot of stuff in there was, a nothing burger, if I'm going to just put it bluntly. It's just normal stuff.
Robert McGee, again, candidate position 3, South Kitsap Fire and Rescue. Robert, if people want to find out more about you, if they want to find out more about your candidacy, help you do signs, whatever it is, how do they get on board?
Yeah, volunteerism's the best. I don't want your money. I want your eyeballs, and I want information out there. That's the biggest key for, I think, any candidate. And you can go to my website. It's MCGEE, the number 4, skfrcommissioner.com, or call me. Hit my email. All that stuff's on my website. A lot of my endorsements are there, which I'm actually really proud of my endorsements. A lot of community members endorsing me, and a lot of folks I didn't expect to endorse me. So that's where you can find me.
All right. It's Robert McGee, position 3, South Kitsap Fire and Rescue. We'll chat with him on Facebook to wrap this up. If you're on AIM, enjoy the commercials. We're back after this. All right, if you're a listener and you want to find out more, I did post a link to his website, which again is McGee, the number 4, and then skfrcommissioner.com. So the link is in the chat if you want to go check that out, read more about Robert and where he stands. Robert, any parting thoughts or anything you want to share with the listeners as we?
No, I mean, do your homework. I mean, my opponent, nicest guy, really is. I've had some great conversations even with him, and I like the fact that this race I'm not running against somebody that I dislike, right? It's not why I'm running. I'm running because I think I offer something that he doesn't, and I really like to see a race like that where it's not nasty and vindictive, and it's a good place to be, I think, as an elected candidate, especially as a first-time elected candidate. I'm not getting into some nastiness with anybody, but no, I mean, you're basically you're making a decision on who you think will best help manage the budgets and resources of the district. And so, do you want a 35-year union firefighter, or would you like a guy with some business experience and some union experience outside the fire district? And that's really what it comes down to, if you want to break it down to its simplicity. And I just bring a different set of eyes. I bring a different set of skill sets. And I think that change is needed. Meeting with people from the e-board and a lot of people that I had lunch with from out the district, one of the overwhelming consensus from them is they want to see change. Well, if you want change, you got to vote for somebody else. And that's just kind of how it works. And if you don't, then stick with the guy you got. So it's kind of where it's at with this campaign. And I look forward to earning the community's trust on this.
Sounds great. Again, his name, Robert McGee, position 3, South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Commissioner seat. And again, we have the chat in his website in the chat. Again, it's www.mcgee, spelled out the number 4, and then skfrcommissioner.com. Find out more and make sure you cast your vote. Again, these local races, your votes are really important to those local races. Robert, man, thanks for coming in on a Sunday.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Thanks for paying attention to this race. It's usually goes unnoticed, so I'm glad people are actually talking about it.
Let's chat again soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, and don't be too nice to Tom, because continue to give him a hard time. I know you guys are friends, so give him a hard time.
He does. And while we were wrapping that up, we are back on AM now. So Kevin, it's just you and me, because I think Rob's going to get ready to go home to his lovely wife. And I mean, we have a question from Phil.
Yeah.
Hey, go.
Hey, I always wondered, like, is fire service, some of it funded primarily by statute? Like, this is your population, this is the statute that provides this funding, then you get additional through levies and whatnot.
No.
Because that's the part that seemed confusing. You're going to build more houses, there'll be more property taxes, thus more money to...
So that's one of the premises.
Yeah, Philip, hold on. Oh, there you go. Make sure his microphone's on. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Robert.
So while I think they're late to the party on the impact fees, that's the premise for an impact fee, actually. So impact fees typically are tagged on to that growth. And so as you build a structure, right, you get an impact fee towards the district on that, which, as a business owner, I'm always sensitive about taxes. So, and that's one of the things I'm always going to kind of weigh, is this going to be good, bad? Because there's a fine line between having too high of taxes. So we get too high of impact fees, it actually slows growth in the area too. So we've got to be careful not to go too far with impact fees to where we actually slow growth. And now our builders are getting stymied and they stop building. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're still having that economic development grow, but we still need to make sure that they're also paying to help, provide these needs that we have to have. So I understand the need and the want for the fire district to go after an impact fee. You've just got to do it at the right time. And with these massive increases that we've had, it just makes the timing incredibly challenging. And the people that you would normally want to help you support that, probably not going to get behind it. And I think you're going to have a hard time getting the community to get behind it right now because, people can't even afford rent around here right now. It's things are incredibly expensive, and that's not the fault of the district, but it's just a reality they've got to deal with. And so we got to be cognizant of it. And I know that they need more financial help somehow, but we may have to get something going on at the state legislature to help, fund some of these things that we need to have done. It's just getting out of control. Grants are another way they can fund. And I do like they go after grants. As much as it's still taxpayer money, at least it's spread out over a larger pool, whether it's federal or state. Getting a grant from the state spreads it out over state taxpayers, not just our local taxpayers. So I definitely am more amenable for our citizens locally in grants, and especially if it's federal, because now it's spread out over the national, tax base. And so grants are amazing so long as there's not a million strings attached. And you've got to be real careful with state and federal grants because they start throwing in these weird strings, and now you're on the hook for something you might not want to be on the hook for in 2-3 years. And so love grants, watch the language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Robert, will you do me a favor? If you're successful and
hang on just a second, sorry. Kevin, he's adjusting his headphones.
Oh, okay. Robert, it's okay. If you're successful and you're elected, will you agree to come on with us every once in a while and just give us a little more transparency into the office, what you guys are doing, what decisions you're making, how that process, kind of how the sausage is made?
Yeah, I actually like that you'd like to do that because transparency is a big deal for me. And even if you ever called the chief, he'd come in and talk with you. He's a great guy, and he's all about transparency. And that's one of the things I really love about him. It actually helped me. Having him there actually was one of the things that helped me run for this position. So obviously the first thing, make sure my wife's okay with it because you're running for elected office. So that was number one. Number two, timing, right? It had to be right. I thought about this a couple of years ago, but it wasn't right with my kids in school and stuff. And now it is. My kids got another 5-6 years of school. It's really good timing for me. And then just knowing the people that I'm be working with there, that if I get on this commission, working with the chief is going to be great. He's just a guy that you can work with, you can talk to, and he's not going to BS you, right? He's going to just give it to you straight. And I appreciate that. Those are those type of people I like to work with.
All right. Awesome, man. Again, Robert McGee running for position 3, South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Commissioner seat. Robert, man, thanks again for coming, staying a little bit later than I think we'd originally planned, and joining us here on Outlaw.
Yeah, thanks for all the great questions, and hopefully I answered them. If I didn't, email me. Please email or call me, and I'll try to get the answer. If I don't have the answer, I'll get you the answer.
Sounds good. Robert McGee, follow his website. The website's in the chat. Learn more about him, and then educate yourself before you cast those votes.
Please educate yourself before you vote for everything.
Yeah. Well, and again, listen, I mentioned it before on these local races. It is not uncommon to see a local race decided by less than 100 votes. Mm-hmm. We've seen some local races decided by less than 10 votes in the last couple of years. So, if you're sitting at home right now thinking, well, my vote really doesn't matter. And no, on these local races, it certainly does.
Well, the prior folks on from KCRP, great example. One of the things that really, I'm glad they said, your local races affect your family and your pocketbook the most. And I love the fact they talked about community too, because someone was talking about the governor here a while back, and I says, he doesn't even know who you are. He doesn't know your name. I go, but when the dookie hits the fan, you're going to rely on your neighbors next to you. So know their names and be their friends, because those are the people that are going to help you when stuff really goes down. So community is very important, and your local politics actually matter the most because it affects you immediately.
Exactly. All right. Robert, man, you're awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
you,
right,
my
Robert
friend.
McGee. Thanks to
Laura.
Robert for coming in.
What are you doing, mister?
Thought you were talking to Robert.
Oh,
So-
no, I was just going to tell Robert, Lori's right around the corner there, and she'll make sure you make your way out and all that good stuff.
Thanks, guys.
No,
Thank you,
my friend.
Robert McGee.
Robert,
all right,
we'll chat later, buddy.
All right, so it's just Tom and I, and I'm sure Lori will come in shortly and join us in studio. And
my Swiss beef.
I meant, yeah, you're right, Philip. That was disrespectful of me. I apologize.
I just taking the opportunity for the joke.
I'll try not to do that again. So it's just Tom and I. No, just kidding. Again, I'm broadcasting live from San Diego. Tom in studio. I think I read that Paul is on his way into studio, so we'll see what's up with that. We'll see if Paul makes his way in or what's going on there.
I think he was making his way from his job site to his home, I think is what that read as. But that would have put him on with us quite a while ago. So I do believe we were going to talk about Israel a little bit, weren't we?
Yeah, we are for sure. We're going to open it. We have a break coming up, but when we come back to the break, we'll read through it. Let me just give you guys the kind of the numbers. This is off of CNN. Again, I think CNN is probably a reliable source for this, just because I'm just going to give you straight data and information, and we'll discuss the ins and outs and all of that here shortly. So here's what we need. On Saturday, Gaza militants first launched a massive missile attack on Israel. Most of those missiles did not make it through thanks to Israel's Iron Dome, although it was not 100% effective, as several were able to make their way through the Iron Dome and actually landed in spots. In conjunction with that, armed militants from Gaza were able to breach the border with Israel. They made their way in. They killed Israeli civilians in their home, on the streets. They kidnapped an untold number of Israeli citizens. From what I've been able to ascertain, mostly women and children. Took them across the border. Many of them are still being held as hostages. Many others were, once they were taken across the border, were murdered and then sent back across the border. Their bodies were sent back across the border. It's like a sign of, look what we did.
In a terribly disrespectful manner.
Yeah, in a terribly disrespectful manner. So what we have right now is a confirmed death toll out of Israel of 700 people. The leader of Israel came out and said he expects it to be over 1,000.
I'd say, hey, Kevin, what
yes.
time is that? What time is that time stamped?
Because the info that I have is from 39 minutes ago.
Oh, wow. All right. Because as of like 3:30 this afternoon or something, I had picked up a report, and I don't remember where it was, that the death toll had already been well over 1,000. Not quite 2, but it had already been over.
Yeah. So what we have is we have a confirmed death toll, which is a number that I'm giving.
Okay.
And then we have the president of Israel. Is that Netanyahu? And Netanyahu came out earlier today and said that it was his understanding the number was over 1,000, but they haven't been able to verify that.
Okay.
So we have a confirmed of 700. We also have a confirmed 2,300 others wounded in Gaza, along with 400 Palestinians killed in Gaza as a result of the Israeli response. We don't know what the makeup of those in Gaza are. How many of them are militants in Gaza? How many of those are innocent civilians that have been placed in the crossfire? We know that among the dead are at least 260 people whose bodies were found at the site of an Israeli music festival. the festival was to promote peace. Hamas gunmen entered into the music festival and shot at the attendees as they fled. They took some of those hostages across the border. One of them was I don't have her age, but a younger woman who had dual Israeli-German citizenship, and the videos and the story about what they did to her after they took her and after they killed her and how they returned her was just completely horrible. We also know that about at least 100 Israeli hostages are being held in Gaza, including some high-ranking army officers and many others of other nationalities, including Mexican and Brazilian nationals. We don't have any numbers on the American citizens being held hostage as of what I've been able to garner.
So Phil, Kevin, Phil's got something he's patiently waiting to interject here. I don't want you to go too far from this topic, or he'll lose it.
Yeah,
go ahead, Phil.
I was just thinking, just to perspective, 9/11 was our big hit in the United States. 3,000 plus killed, but on a per capita basis, I mean, if you're looking at 700-800, that's like well over 10 times the per capita loss that we saw at 9/11. Just to give a perspective of what those numbers mean.
Yeah,
and I have seen some people refer to this as Israel's 9/11. I think it's a little bit of a disservice to call this comparative to our 9/11. If only, I don't think it compares at all in the sense that Israel is fighting against a well-armed, thanks to Iran, a well-armed military force on their border, on their doorstep. 9/11, as horrible as that was, saw every single one of those terrorists that were on those planes dead as a result of the action. And this is a concerted military effort that'll be ongoing for more than just one awful day that we had. And I'm not minimizing 9/11 at all. But I think that what Israel is up against is going to be far more impactful, far more long-term, far more destructive.
Well, you also
over the long run.
The conflict in the Middle East has been a part of their culture for 2,000 years, though. That's just part of who they be and how they be with each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we're about a minute away from break here, my friends.
Yeah, let me just give a couple other pieces of information before we get to break, and then we will. Would you mute Paul really quick till he gets set up? A couple other things I'll give you really quick, just so that we know. There's still some explosions coming out of Tel Aviv. Hamas has targeted Ben Gurion Airport, which is Israel's international hub. It's just outside of Tel Aviv. And then the U.S. announced some things that we'll talk about during the Facebook side as well in response. So stick around. Paul is joining us from his space. I'm in San Diego, Tom's in studio, and we're back after this. It's Outlaw Radio. All right, so we're back on Facebook only. Feel free to swear to your little heart's content. A couple of things I want to give on this story before we get into just kind of full panel discussion. So the U.S. announced today that they're going to send a Navy carrier strike group to the Eastern Mediterranean, including a guided missile destroyer and several guided missile cruisers. The U.S. has also announced that they're going to position more fighter jets to the Middle East as a deterrent to Hezbollah. Now, there was already a whole bunch of fighter jets that were already positioned in the area because of some of the Iranian provocations in regards to Syria. That temporary assignment expired last week, but this is going to result in kind of a renewal of having more U.S. fighter jets in the region. Hamas has said that the U.S. taking these actions is an aggression against the Palestinian people. That's a quote. And then finally, U.S. lawmakers and Biden administration officials have discussed increasing support for Israel. And the UN, though, taking, I can swear, the fuckery way out, has not issued anything as far as a statement. because not all of the 15 members on the UN Security Council condemned the attack, and you cannot get a UN Security Council condemnation unless all 15 vote, and at least one nation did not condemn the attack. So that's what we have on just kind of facts and data as Tom joins us. Hello. As Paul joins us. Hello, Paul.
Hey, brother.
What's going on, man?
Just to let you guys know, Phil just gave me the 1 minute finger, and now we're down to the 10-second finger. So
all right, we'll bring Paul on after this.
Yeah,
I don't even want to know how to interpret that 10-second finger. It's like clicking the mouse button. Double clicking.
Guess what? I just got the finger again. So this is Outlaw Radio Network. Wow. We're back. Paul, where was your .com, man?
.com.
I didn't feel that it was right for me to say it from being that far away. You know,
you're not that
we're global now.
Yeah, dude, obviously.
I mean, we got
people in the foreign
country of People's Republic of California, even.
Yeah. I was amazed. Like, I have to go to church today in California. I figured they would have banned it by now. They would have outlawed religious services in California, but lo and behold, they have not. So I'm pleasantly surprised.
Huh.
So before we went to break and during the Facebook side, we talked about what happened in Israel over the last 36 to 48 hours or so. And so we'll bring
Roger.
Paul in, Tom in, and all of us. We'll just kind of share our thoughts. Paul, I'll open with you. First of all, welcome to the show. It's good to see you, brother.
Yeah.
Hope everything's good on the home front. Your thoughts on what happened in Israel?
Yeah, this is pretty deep, man. I've been on this topic. Oh my goodness. I've probably had half a dozen phone calls across the country to different people. Listen, first of all, let's be really clear. The timing was with intent. And I hope everybody can understand that. And there's a couple of reasons why there was intent behind it. Number one, there was about to be a huge normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia for the first time in 70 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge part of this. The next part of this, and this is something I know that it's easy for people to chalk up to conspiracy theory if you want, but do it at your own peril. And here's why I say that. So if you take a step back, you look at everything that occurred, okay? The attack opened with gunmen dressed as Israeli soldiers entering a peace conference with thousands of people in attendance, mostly women and children. You guys familiar with that part of the story so far?
A peace concert, not a conference, but a concert, right?
Peace concert, yes. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So they went to the peace concert where they opened fire, killed approximately 266 people. A lot of women were raped right there on the grounds. This was a barbaric Viking style attack, if I could call it that. This was not about, we have military goals. We have, something that we're trying to achieve for our country and for our people. That's not what happened here today or yesterday. Okay. I think that's really important first to recognize, especially considering the rhetoric that we've heard coming out of some of the people in Congress. And I'm specifically referring to 4 women who, every time something happens with Israel, can't seem to be able to say anything remotely appropriate. So that's how the attack began, all right, with the rape and murder of 266 women and children at a peace concert. So let's keep that in perspective. 2,500 approximate rockets were launched then from Gaza and other parts of Palestine into Israel, okay? Now, what did that do, right? Only about half of those missiles reached their target. Why? Because of the Iron Dome that the United States has supplied to Israel, okay? Israel today asked for emergency funding to purchase more missiles for the Iron Dome. They are running extremely low. So let's keep that in mind. Why is that important? It's important because there's another organization, there's another major player in the region. You guys know who that other major player is?
Iran.
No. Well, yes, they are, but not right there. They're not Hezbollah. Okay.
Oh,
so we're
yeah.
talking about Lebanon, the Lebanese people, and Hezbollah. Okay. Now, Hezbollah has the exact same political desires as Hamas. They are aligned with regards to their aims and their desires, no pun intended. And Hezbollah, sitting up there, did launch some rockets this morning and overnight last night, our time, into Israel, but only a few, and hasn't done anything since. So the whole thing was a little bit weird. The estimates are, now Iran has been providing Hezbollah missiles for 30 years. Estimates that I heard today coming out of military intelligence is that Hezbollah has access to approximately 100,000 missiles. Just let that sink in. But Hezbollah hasn't really attacked. It's like they started to, but it's almost like somebody pulled the trigger prematurely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now Israel's called up all of their reserves. They've acknowledged, we're in a state of war. And Hezbollah is sitting there with a massive amount of missiles they are capable of launching. It came out today that Iran openly supported, helped, planned, and to some degree funded the attack by Hamas. Were you guys aware of that piece of information?
Yeah, the green light for that was given in Beirut like a week ago. Or
That's
whatever
correct.
It was. Yeah.
But they've been helping plan since the beginning of August. Is the word that came out, and that's according to the leader of Hamas himself, who basically did an Instagram post where he acknowledged all of that. It may not have been Instagram, it may have been one of the other social media, but he basically did a post where he laid it all out. So he's acknowledging the fact that Iran was behind this. Okay. Now let me ask you a question, because I need to lead you down this path so that you understand where I'm coming from. Where is there another major conflict going on in the world right now?
Well, Iran and Russia are getting chummy with their attack drone assistance in Ukraine. So, when you were saying the timing on this was orchestrated, I don't disagree with that.
So what's happening in Ukraine right now? So the Ukrainians went on the offensive, right? But at this point in time, they're virtually in a stalemate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the United States starts spending their energy, their time, their resources, and their resupply starts going to Israel, who's not getting those resupplies? Ukraine, right?
Yeah, the American people are already starting to squawk about the bill for supporting Ukraine. So, throwing a second front in there was very smart of Hamas and Hezbollah, unfortunately.
And Russia, right?
Well,
so if you, this is just my personal opinion.
Yeah, but Russia's got plausible deniability.
Of course they do, but my comments don't have anything to do with it. It doesn't. You're missing the point here. My point is that you have Russia in the background, who is very close militarily and policy-wise to Iran. Iran has acknowledged that they were behind planning, funding, and helping pull this operation off. Now, this was a huge operation, right? 88 different targets were hit simultaneously. That's not something a terrorist organization does. It was hard enough for them to coordinate 4 airplanes, right? So you're talking about a state actor who is supporting both with money, equipment, supplies, and military techniques and tactics, a terrorist organization to pull off a massive attack, while there's another predator sitting directly to the north, waiting, and a predator that is exceptionally well armed and who has already sort of kind of lobbed a few shots in Israel's way, right? In Israel's direction. So they're sitting there waiting to see what happens next, right? Israel is pulling up their reserves because from Israel's standpoint, they're in a state of war, right? And they're approaching it like such, right? They're like, well, we're at war, so we're gonna pull in our reserves. We're gonna put who we got to put in the field. The United States sent the Gerald Ford Carrier Group, okay, to within about 30 miles, if I understood the information correctly, to within about 30 miles of the coast of Israel, right? Well, that puts them well within striking range of any of their aircraft. That sucker's got more firepower than probably every nation in the Middle East. But they're there nonetheless, right? What Iran does next, I would say to anybody that's watching this situation, if you don't think that this isn't a powder keg, this is a massive powder keg, right? Remember, just a week ago, the Prince of Saudi Arabia stated, and I quote, "If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, we have to get one too." Well, who's on the cusp of getting a nuclear weapon and may already actually have one? Iran, right? Now, if you're Iran and you're taking a look at this and you're saying, you know, we're going to back this up, we're going to make all of this stuff happen, my gut instinct tells me that Iran is doing that to take attention away from the fact that they probably have already developed a nuke. And it is their complete intention. They've made it very clear that they intend to wipe Israel off the face of planet Earth, right? That Israel does not have a right to exist. We've heard over the years, we've talked about this before, the former leader of Iran, I forget his name, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, right? He went and stood in front of the United Nations and said that they prayed for the return of the Mahdi. Okay, the Mahdi is the Muslim version of the Antichrist. They are, look, if you're a Christian, you ain't sitting around going, God, I hope the Antichrist shows up this year. I'm getting tired of waiting. That's not what you're doing. But if you are Shia and you're in Iran, you're sitting there going, I want the Antichrist here, man. I want to bring this to a boil. Let's get it on now so that I can live in paradise on earth after the great conflagration or Armageddon or whatever name, whoever's faith or whatever faith a person studies is part of. So I think that there's an entire section of people on planet Earth right now that this is exactly what they want. They want to get it on. And I'm sorry, who's... Oh, yeah, it's cool. I'll just take a seat.
What?
What's wrong?
What's wrong, Paul?
I don't know.
What happened?
Paul was going.
I don't know what happened.
He's not.
I don't know. I don't know what happened, Paul.
All I'm hearing is hearing myself talk back.
No, it might be a tech issue.
Might just be your bandwidth. It'll
That's
hopefully
it, yeah,
correct.
I don't know.
We're dialoguing, so it must be working.
Well, and listen, and so as we're coming up against top of the hour too, so I think this is a good point for us to put a pin in this really quick. We'll double check some tech things on the Facebook side as we go. But I think that Paul brings up some really good stuff, and I'll be honest with you, I had not considered the Ukraine-Russia ramifications of all of this on that end of the discussion, right? Paul, as you said, you know, if you're lending aid and support, that aid and support's got to come from somewhere. Who are you going to undercut? You're probably going to undercut the Ukrainians. So it would make sense for Russia to have some positive influence maybe on the Iranians, who certainly controls Hamas and Hezbollah. It certainly does make sense for that. So let's do this. We're gonna go to break. We'll check into some of our tech challenges we're running into here, and we'll figure out what's going on. And we're back after the top of the hour news. For those of you on AM, for those of you on Facebook, you get to help us troubleshoot some stuff. Woohoo! Outstanding tech stuff. There's my thumbs. All right.
So that, I don't know if you guys are following chat or not, but there's a couple of interesting. Well, there's one interesting comment in chat that grabbed my attention when you talk about
Tom,
when we come back.
Tom's like, there's like 25 good, interesting conversation. Well, there's one, but
no, there's one. The rest are our previous topic.
We're back after this, Outlaw Radio
Network.com.
All right. Outlaw Radio, we're back on Facebook only. So I don't know what happened, Paul. You were talking and then you just stopped. I don't know if you thought one of us were trying to shut you down or what happened, but
no.
We are on
Phil
Facebook,
started talking.
It's a message from the Lord.
Well, we're on Facebook, so we can curse and swear about it.
No, you were doing great. I don't
You
know
can
what
curse and
happened.
swear. So it sounded like, well, you started talking about an alternative perspective while I was in the middle of my conversation. So I didn't know if
we
you
didn't
could
hear
hear me, so
that.
I stopped talking. Yeah, so
there's an odd little echo somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure what them. Yeah, it's okay though. It's technology, right? I mean, this is a good
figure it out.
Good experiment for us, right? We're doing this for the first time, and might be the last time, but it's a good
Triple screen
experience.
looks good.
I know. Look how good we look. Well, I mean, look how good I look. I mean, the rest of you.
It's funny watching you, Kevin's sitting there underneath the Squidward picture. Yeah.
Tentacles. Anyway.
10 tickles. Not 8.
Tentacles. Anyway.
Robert Parker has something interesting. The ultimate target is us. They're working to deplete our stockpiles.
That was the comment that I was going to bring back after we were done on break. Yeah, because it's an interesting idea. Like I said, I mean, we're already squawking. You know, that we the people are already squawking about how much money we've dumped into supporting Ukraine. Now we're going to support Israel too.
Well, and this is one of those spots where, you know, I hate to make this political, but this is one of those spots where Congress is going to have to make a decision. You know, one of the things that was stymieing the budget discussions that almost resulted in the federal shutdown, and that at least before this happened yesterday, I was sure was going to lead to a federal shutdown in November, is the fact that Republicans and Democrats can't agree on Ukraine funding. And that question is going to have to be answered along with, you know, Israeli funding and assistance. Because if we have a government shutdown in the midst of all of this because Congress can't get their stuff together,
we're still on
it's just going
right?
to, yeah.
You can say get their shit together.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I worry about whether or not Congress can make a decision on anything.
Well, so Robert has a couple more comments in chat that I think are interesting. I mean, we're already, and this is something Paul's talked about. We're already javelins and howitzer rounds and other components. You know, so we're into our wartime reserves, and now we've potentially got another front to fight or supply.
Well, and therein lies the issue, right, guys? I mean, the issue is, will we see the Biden administration ratchet up the production of weapons and missiles and shells and bombs and all the stuff that needs to come along with that? You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those times that we need leadership out of the Biden administration, and that's like asking for you know, Hitler to run a Jewish daycare. It's not even there's no part of the Biden administration that should encourage anyone to have faith that they can navigate this. I mean, they couldn't navigate the issues we had before, let alone this brand new wrinkle that is Israel and Gaza.
I wouldn't even have any faith in our generals or our leadership there, because the Biden administration has neutered them just with its confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I think that's a fair point, Tom. That's a fair point. You know, how much confidence? I know that soldiers right now, active duty enlisted, don't have a great deal of confidence in upper management, right? They certainly don't in Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of State. They think he's a joke. You know, I think there's a lot of mixed emotions about Biden, and that leadership trickles down. During the Obama years, we saw a complete purge of upper echelon military leadership.
Outlaw Radio.
Greed, deception, abuse of power, that's no plan. I'm the enemy. Because I like to think. I like to read. I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit in a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak with a jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with a side order of gravy fries? I want high cholesterol. I want to eat bacon and butter and buckets of cheese, okay? I want to smoke a Cuban cigar the size of Cincinnati in a non-smoking section. I want to run through the streets naked with green Jell-O all over my body reading Playboy magazine. Why? Because I suddenly might feel the need to, okay, pal? I've seen this. You know what it is? It's a 47-year-old virgin sitting around in his beige pajamas, drinking a banana broccoli shake, singing, I'm an Oscar Mayer weed.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. Outlaw Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Outlaw Radio Network. It is, I don't know, sometime before 11.
It's just after 10. Just after 10, my friend.
10:05
to go.
Yeah, which is sometime before 11.
It is. I was not inaccurate. So, Paul, back to what you were saying. Or are you about to glitch?
Yeah. And,
no,
your screen pixelated over here. So,
and again, what we're talking about currently is
okay.
Yeah, what we're talking about right now is the situation in Israel, the heinous attacks over the weekend, and kind of what happens next. And Tom, Paul, you had made the explanation about how this really benefits Russia as well.
Well, it does benefit Russia because if the United States is now putting effort into resupplying Israel and paying attention to Israel, then the United States is not paying attention to Russia and Ukraine. There are reports coming out right now that Russian attacks have been creeping closer and closer and closer to NATO countries. Now, you start putting all of this together, and like, oh yeah, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. Yeah, well, if 2 years ago I'd have told you we'd have been watching as Russia was losing a war in Ukraine to its little redheaded stepbrother, and that Israel was going to be attacked and more Jews would be killed in one day since the concentration camps, you'd think I was nuts. But all of that's just happened. So, life is far stranger than I think anything fiction writers could come up with. And things are really on the cusp right now. And if you don't see it, sorry, I can't help you. But, it definitely is. It's on the cusp. And what happens next, I think, in the Middle East, for some reason, Saudi Arabia is blaming Israel for the attack. We've got congresswomen here in this country that are completely incapable of saying the word Hamas when they talk about inexcusable attacks, murders, rapes. And let's not make any bones about it. Hamas is not an army. They are a terrorist organization. Now, you can argue all you want about, like I dug deep, and I wanted to know, hey, in 1948, when Israel was created, how many Palestinians were forcibly removed, right? Anybody know the answer to that question?
No, I do not.
Yeah, because the answer is none. In point of fact, after Israel was created in 1948, those surrounding countries, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, all attacked Israel, right? And they lost. Mm-hmm. In fact, Israel doubled its size because of territory it took during that attack. So you know what happened during that attack? A whole bunch of Palestinians said, oh crap, we picked a fight with somebody that's kicking our ass. So you know what the Palestinians did? They ran. So the Palestinians extricated themselves from their former lands, and then after they got their butts kicked, demanded all that land back. Mm-hmm. Listen, when you really dig deep into this, and I hear people tell you Israel does this and Israel does it. Well, first of all, when you move into a neighborhood and your neighbors tell you don't have the right to be there, you're going to be a little bit defensive, right? Paul. Yeah, you're going to be a little defensive. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure if that was a rhetorical question or not.
So one of the things that I had made mention of before you came on was that part of the world hasn't gotten along with itself in at least 2,000 years. I mean, it's part of the culture to kill each other.
Let me ask you a question, because that's a very valid point, Tom. What difference does that make?
Well, so the problem is the different factions there don't view each other as human beings deserving of respect and life, and
Correct.
they're so deep into the animosity and the violence that they've dehumanized each other. So until they can get over that and figure out a way to talk, it's just gonna stay like this.
Well, what do you label, or what label do you put on that? Because I personally put a label on that as a very immature culture in society. That's how I see them, right?
No,
when you've got people jumping up and down and screaming in the streets because they see a naked girl being paraded through the streets by armed men, that's somebody who's got a real lack of self-control, a real lack of maturity, somebody that's so full of hatred, nothing you say to them is going to get through. So what are you going to do?
I would like to agree with that, but unfortunately, I think of that more as just base human nature. We forget.
What?
I mean,
what is base human nature? Hatred, anger, tribalism.
The 3 Fs.
All of the above. All of the above.
No. The 3 Fs are basic human nature.
Okay.
We want to fight. We want to feed, and you can figure out the third one. That that is your
fornicate.
Sure, that is your basic human behavior. It's basic primate behavior, right? And so when I say fight, I don't necessarily always mean a physical altercation. It could just be a competition for stature or whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical fight. In this case, it is. So, I mean, our first concern is feeding ourselves, and then we're territorial, and then we want to replicate ourselves.
So let me push back, Tom, because I totally understand what you're saying, and I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're saying. But I think you're doing it in a very PC way, and I don't think that serves. I don't think it serves any purpose. Okay. And here's what I mean by that. Not what you're saying personally, but
sure.
If we continue to go through life as the United States of America, right? And we look at a First Nation country like Israel, right? Would you consider them a First Nation country or Second Nation? I don't know how you would perceive them. I see them as a First Nation country. I see Palestine as effectively a Second Nation country. Hamas is not a group. Yeah, they're just an organization, right?
It's an entity.
They're
but it's
like
not
the
a
Boy
government.
Scouts.
Yeah, it's
yeah, exactly. Okay. Yet they're being celebrated, applauded, and funded by their nation, by their country, because they take great pride and joy in it. They take a lot of pride and joy in the killing of innocent women and children. There is a great deal of pride taken in that. So when I see that occur, I don't look at that and say, well, gee, we have to sit down and have a conversation with them, because no part of me thinks having a conversation with them is going to do any good.
No, it's not. I'm not suggesting it is, but it's still part of human nature. I mean, look at
it is, but it doesn't. But it does. Here's what I'm trying to get through you. But it doesn't matter if it's part of human nature, because the fact that has to be dealt with right now, Tom, is that you have one group of people trying to eradicate, obliterate, kill, rape, plunder another group of people. So it doesn't do any good for us to sit back, right, and go, well, that's human nature. I don't see that as being anything close to helping solve the issue. And this is my bias here coming out, and I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to impart this onto anybody else. But I don't believe that there is any resolution for this now. I do not believe you can sit the parties down and have a conversation. That ship has sailed, right? That ship has been there.
What
that
I'm
ship
getting at,
is
that ship sailed 2,000 years ago. It
didn't, Tom. They've been sitting at peace talks for the last 40 years. In fact, Saudi Arabia was just this week getting ready to recognize Israel, right? Different people have been making gains. This was a card hand that was dealt by certain players because they had it to deal. They did not have to come to conflict. This was Iran pushing Hamas.
Yeah, but it was an easy push because 40 years is...
Oh, yeah, of course it was.
40 years is nothing in the face of 2,000 years of history. 40 years is nothing. It's
That's
nothing.
okay. See, I get what you're saying, dude, but that's like saying an NFL team is going to be bad this year because they've historically been bad. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
none of it matters.
Unless you're Cleveland, but
but the difference between in football is, you know, we're cognizant of where our shortfalls are and we want to try to fix them, but we can't even agree where the shortfalls are here culturally because they all hate each other, and they have always all hated each other, and so the only way this is going to come to any resolution is either one of those factions dominates the entire Middle East, and
Yes. What is the nature of war?
Right. The rest of
You
the world
kill
lives with it.
You kill enough of them, and eventually they stop fighting.
Right.
And that's where we're at now.
Yeah. Well,
That's why I take the opinion, man. All of our thought processes about how things should or could have went, they're all out the window now.
Yep.
The idea to have peace in the Middle East, to me, it's gone, and which leaves only one course of action, right? If you're an Israeli, you're never going to forgive the Palestinians for what they did. They left 266 women and children dead at a peace concert laying in the grass, man. How do you forgive that? Because, you know, if it was this country, I know what we do.
Wait a minute. Do you know what we would do, Paul? We would have a large percentage of our population making excuses about it and talking about how we've treated them unfairly. And, you know, like that's what we would do about it, because that's exactly what happened after 9/11. I mean, that's exactly what we did after 9/11.
Okay. You're right. You know, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, there's no telling what's going to go on. I mean, you wouldn't think that the United States and Japan would be allies. I mean, we vaporized 2 of their cities.
That's actually my exact point. You're right. And that exactly goes to my point. The nature of war is that if you kill enough of the enemy, eventually they stop fighting.
Right. But we can't do that. It's not our war. It's not our conflict. We haven't been part of that conflict for 2,000 years. It's them with each other. That's where their problems are. The only issue they have with us is we keep getting our fingers in it.
Well, I think that's
we don't have any place to be there.
But what does culture have to do with any of it, right? Because today and yesterday, how many Americans were killed and how many were taken hostage?
So
quite a few.
Correct. And that's collateral damage in their eyes, because Shias and Sunnis and Kurds, they just don't all get along. And then you mix in your Jewish population, and it's just all cultures that they just haven't gotten along with each other. It has nothing to do with us, other than the fact that we dip our fingers where they don't belong.
Yeah, I wish that I could have your optimism and just chalk it up to, you know, cultural indifference. I can't do that. I think maybe it's because, you know, I spent some time around, you know, in Uganda and around some Muslim cultures, and saw how they were teaching 5-year-old kids to want to kill you just because of where you were from and who you are.
That's exactly what I'm talking about with the culture. They're perpetuating it in their youth and their culture.
Yeah. And what I think the point that I'm trying to really just drive home to people that are listening is there is no degree of a conversation that is going to sit down and change that. There's nothing. So, which to me, and that's why I say to me, because your points are all totally relevant and great points if we're having an adult conversation in an adult world with an adult group of people. I don't classify them as an adult group of people. I classify them as incredibly immature humans who have no respect for the sanctity of life. And as a result, that's not somebody, in my opinion, that we can sit down and reason with. And I don't think that 2,000 years of history does anything except justify to them their own killing and their own actions. If I'm making sense, I know what I'm trying to say. It's hard to know if I'm coming out of my mouth.
Though, Paul. No, Paul, we're saying the same thing. What you
yes, I'm just saying it better.
Yep, sure. I mean, what you described was
I'm kidding,
culture of those populations. I mean, that's exactly what the problem is. You know, when you indoctrinate someone at the age of 5 that's a bad person, and that's not even a person, and that life doesn't mean anything. Well, it's real easy to take that life. It's like squashing a roach.
I have an idea. I'm curious what Kevin would think about this. I think we got a great idea. Let's go in. Let's send in the U.S. Army. Let's go in, just wipe our butt cheeks with them, right? Then let's take all the children and ship them off to Americanization schools.
That's not imperialism in any way, or yeah.
Hey, listen, though,
a little imperialism.
Yeah,
I want to bring
just
up
a little,
something,
Tom, right?
I want to bring up something though that I think is lost in the entire conversation, and I don't disagree with anything that you've said, Paul, but I think there's one important thing that's lost in this conversation, which is Hamas represents a fraction of the people who live in the Gaza Strip, right?
Yes.
So the people that are going to pay for this, let's be honest. I mean, Israel got clobbered yesterday for sure, and I'm not minimizing that at all. But the people that are going to pay for this in the long run are going to be the civilians in the Gaza Strip, because that Israeli war machine is about to run through them, on them, and over them. And they don't have a lot of options on places to go. I think what we're going to see from a very rightfully angry Israeli military is vengeance. But my fear is that vengeance gets placed upon a whole bunch of civilians that had nothing to do with this in the first place.
You have every right to feel that way. You're 100% for it. And if I'm living there with my kids, you and I are probably doing, and Tom, we're all probably doing the exact same thing. If we're not supporters of Hamas, we're packing up our kids and getting the hell out of Dodge.
Get out of Dodge.
Because you got to know what's coming, right? And some people will say, like we've heard from some of the members of Congress today, some of those people can't get up and leave. If they got two legs, if they got a cart, if they got wheels, they can walk their happy butts right on out of there, because if you don't think that the people of Gaza didn't know that this attack was coming, that's complete bunk. You got to know there's no way that the level of numbers of people that they had involved with this, that word didn't get around. And those people, those civilians, were celebrating in the streets, celebrating. And so that says to me, right, that that Hamas had probably 90% of the people, the civilians as well, even though it's not like you want to go in and kill and attack civilians. Hell no. But if you're there and you're a civilian and you got kids and you had nothing to do with it, and you didn't support those actions, just get the hell out, man. You grab what you can grab and you get out, because your enemy is coming with a vengeance, and you know it. You know, this isn't Masada. This isn't a mountaintop. You got a place to run, and you better get the hell out of Dodge. And I think all the Palestinians have done is ensured, because they know Israel's going to hit them back hard, right? And then what's going to happen? Then people in this world, specific people, specific countries and organizations, are going to say, oh my God, look at what Israel's doing to the Palestinians. Right? You can see it coming like a bad dream.
But doesn't it also just continue to wash, rinse, and repeat the issue in the region, right? Which is the Palestinian people, I'm not talking about Hamas, but the Palestinian people have been, or Hezbollah, the Palestinian people have been sold a bill of goods, which is, we are being oppressed by the Israelis, right? So then they stage this massive military attack against Israel. Israel's going to come through with their tanks and their bombs and their guns and turn a whole bunch of places into rubble.
Dude, that's a song. That was a song.
And then, I know.
With their tanks and their bombs.
And then it's going to be resold again to the younger generation of Palestinians. See, look what Israel did to us, without it being in context. You know what I mean? And it is just going to repeat the cycle of raising young Palestinian children to hate the Israelis no matter what.
It goes back to that cultural problem.
Well, and it goes to spinning, right? I mean, it goes back to not, you don't give your people the full information, and you tell them what you want them to know, and you just keep feeding them horse crap, and they keep believing you.
Listen, and you're always going to have that, right?
I say,
we still have it today.
Isn't that any leadership though? They tell you what they want you to know, not necessarily what
For
you
sure.
need to know.
Yeah.
Leadership tells you what they want you to know so that you'll behave the way they want you to behave.
Population
Yeah.
control, very
Yeah.
much a part of it, I think, Tom. Yeah, I think you're spot on. But I would say, listen, look at history, right? Those who fail to understand history, doomed to repeat it. Look at Native American culture in the United States right now, right? The white man rolled over the Native Americans. They put up a token fight. Let's not make any, mixed words about it, but they rolled over Native American culture. There are members of the Native American culture, different tribes still in this country today. All you got to do is go on to X, formerly known as Twitter, and do a quick search, and you will find hundreds of self-identifying Native Americans who are talking about, how the white man is all bad. It's all the white man. Every problem in the world is the white man, right? And that's all you hear from them. But after an amount of time, that attitude begins to change with acceptance. Because once you begin to educate yourself and you begin to understand and learn about history, you find that the revolving wheel of history is that one group of people ultimately always comes in and conquers. Now, eventually somebody will conquer the United States someday.
But history's
It'll probably be Venezuela, but
yeah, that's where I'm moving next. Yeah, but
right.
Yeah, history's always written by the winner.
Mm-hmm.
So
1000%, Tom.
There's always a spin to it. Yeah, I don't think the Middle East is going to. I don't think anything's going to change in our lifetime. Heck, I don't think anything's going to change in our kids' lifetimes. But
we call that normalcy bias.
Yeah, but
and that's okay.
What I'm 1 minute to the next break, guys. But what I'm curious about now is we talk about when we come back after the break. What does this action in the Middle East mean for the big global picture?
Well, the one other question I want to ask too is, why was Israel so surprised by this event? Why were they caught so off guard? Because I would have expected that Israel would be expecting this on the daily, knowing who they share borders with and knowing how Iran hates them and has never backed off, and knowing that they were on the verge of signing that monumental agreement with Saudi Arabia. How were they so caught off guard? So we'll talk about all that around the corner. Stick around. It's Outlaw Radio. Back after this on Mega Talk.
Hey, I think we're back on the social media side.
Outlaw Radio. I do want to comment that I have not heard from Trojo at all since his Cowboys got stomped by the Niners tonight. So there's that.
Last I saw, they had tried to come back, and then San Francisco took it back to a 14-point lead again, and I didn't get to see the rest of the game.
San Francisco clobbered them so hard.
Was it by 14, or did they get worse?
Oh, I think it was worse. I'll even tell you really quick. The final score was 42-10.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They have
playing baseball, basketball. Got the wrong sport.
Damn.
Clearly, the Cowboys are playing the wrong sport. I'll tell you that right now.
Anyway. Robert had a comment in the chat that kind of made me sad after, I don't remember if it was Kevin or Paul. Someone mentioned that, eventually the United States might be conquered. And, Robert said, other countries don't have to worry about that. We're doing a great job of ruining ourselves.
Well,
that makes me sad, but it's kind of true.
I don't think it's true.
Really? You don't think we're divided?
No, that's not what I said. You said we're ruining ourselves.
I think we're ruining ourselves. I mean, we're fighting within.
Kind of like the fall of Rome.
We've been doing it as a nation since we formed. Like, this is nothing new. I hate to have to give civics lessons 101 again.
No,
but
you're right. It's nothing new, but I think it's exacerbated by new technology. Communication is bigger now. Everything's bigger now. The problem's going to be bigger now, not smaller.
Like the
that's
book,
what she said.
Good book says, there's nothing new under the sun.
The status of our country and our inability to get together with each other and division and all of that is nothing new. I mean, we had a civil war, for God's sakes. We had the elections of 1804 and the election of 1900, which reflected really deep division points in our country. That this is nothing new. People need to stop being alarmist and ringing the oh my God, we're all going to die, Chicken Little, put your head in the sand bell. I mean, we'll navigate through this like we've navigated through every other trouble spot of this
We're
nation.
coming back, Outlaw Radio.
And I'm always right.com. Outlaw Radio. I guess I'll do the intro because Tom's lost, looking around the room for something.
No, things are falling off the table over here.
What are you breaking stuff? Great job.
Yes.
All right. So we're talking about the situation with Israel and the massive attack on them by Hamas over the weekend. The one question I want to get before we get to the world stage stuff is, Tom and Paul, do you guys have any thoughts how Israel got so surprised by this attack that it wasn't
the word you just said it. Surprise.
Right, but why were they
Listen,
they so surprised? Like, I feel like it should have been. I don't want to say expected, but they knew. I mean, why wouldn't their systems have been at a heightened alert, knowing that they're about to sign that big agreement with Saudi Arabia? How could somebody have gotten across Israel's southern border? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, one of the things we talked about, how there's been no conflict in the Middle East for 40 years. I think they just got complacent, but it goes back to the track record of several thousand years. It was bound to happen.
Listen,
it's like China. China's never been a stable, government or anything. Every few years, it goes through some kind of a collapse and reinvention of itself. I mean, that's all the Middle East is doing. Is it falls into some kind of chaos like now, and then it'll reinvent itself into some sort of semi-stable state of something and wash, rinse, repeat.
I adore you, Tom, but your level of normalcy bias is nearly disturbing. Listen, just because you haven't seen this stuff happen doesn't mean that this is the same wash, rinse, repeat. Just because we haven't experienced an asteroid strike a major city doesn't mean it isn't going to happen, right? We've got to get this out of this mindset that it'll be okay. It's happened before; it'll happen again, right? Do you think anybody in Israel right now is thinking that? Hell no, right, dude? They're thinking, what the hell I got to do to protect my family? What do I got to do to get my kids out of harm's way, right? They have no thought process about the kind of stuff that you're saying. I'm sitting here and I'm reading through and I think this is important, right? And I'm not going to, this will sound like I'm making light of what you and Kevin are saying. I'm not, and I don't mean for it to sound that way at all, but it's like, you guys are like, well, you're on this idea that, well, how do you think Israel could have gotten surprised? Because it was a planned surprise attack. First of all, they attacked with paragliders, dude. Did you know that? Parachutes, they dropped in troops. They had them come in via boat by sea. They had them come in tunnels. They had them come in dressed up as Israeli soldiers. This was a well-coordinated attack that was backed by another standing army, which is Iran, right? This was planned, a planned surprise attack. Now, I can't pretend that this is just, go to work tomorrow. Just like after 9/11, I couldn't, and I'm sitting here and, and I'm on the sites over there in the Middle East. Let me read you this. The naked body of a woman was paraded through the streets in the back of a pickup truck as Hamas fighters sat on her unmoving form. A celebrating crowd surrounded the armed men in combat fatigues who shouted Allah Akbar from the open back of the truck. Some in the crowd, which included young children, spat on the woman's body before the truck sped away on a day of unprecedented massacres of the Israeli civilians. The woman was later named Shani Lauk. Miss Lauk's family confirmed they had seen the video, but said they still had hope she was alive. Miss Lauk is believed to have been kidnapped from Israel after the Hamas fighters infiltrated. Hundreds of Israelis have been killed by the brutal attack. Dozens, including members of the Israeli Defense Forces, were taken hostage. They said, we recognized her by her tattoos, and she has the long dreadlocks. This is a beautiful young woman, 21 years old, man. Massacred, and then her naked body paraded around town.
Yep.
You know, I'm sorry. You're not going to get. Yes, of course, a lot of those civilians are innocent of the wrongdoing. Do you know what they're guilty of? Encouraging it.
Yes.
I see them as the crowd of people that stand around the bar and watch the woman get raped. They are no better.
You're right.
They are no better. And how do you ultimately deal with that? You can't deal with that by, you know, playing niceties. And I mean, Israel is going to have to go in there, and they are going to have to be brutal. I think personally they should flatten Gaza, take it away from the Palestinians, be done with it. You know what? You use it as a jumping off point to massacre our people. You're done. You lose it. Get the fudge out. You know, I caught myself. Almost did it. But you know, extreme situations require an extreme response. Otherwise, you're right, Tom. It will be wash, rinse, and repeat. You know, in China, Tommy, you might know this one. Well, how did the Mongols deal with their enemies? Do you remember this? This was an important lesson that we learned in the movie Red Dawn. The
Mongols would attack
Yes.
a village. They would massacre the men. They would enslave the children and the women, and they'd salt the fields. Yeah.
Yes.
There's no coming back from that. You know,
That's
after
right,
you
brother.
salt
That's
the
right.
field, you're done for 100 years. No crops.
Right. And you know, and even the ancient Chinese, right? And I believe it was one of the Confucius sayings, but I could be wrong, where it talks about you must treat your enemy like a fire. Do not leave so much as an ember burning. You must stamp the whole fire out, because if you don't, one single ember can rise back up again and start a fire all over again. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, but you know, I just, to me, we're at that point. How many years do you have to talk peace with people? Do you have to show them the benefits of love and everybody getting along and doing things, you know, what's best for everybody? You can disagree politically and have arguments in Congress or in the Knesset or wherever, right? Political arguments can go on forever. But these kinds of attacks, what Russia did to Ukraine, what Hamas has done here in Israel, what it looks to me and what I'm willing to bet in the next couple of weeks that we will see Hezbollah do the same thing. At what point do we as human beings say, no, this doesn't work for me anymore. I'm not okay with this idea of this live and let live, when your idea of live and let live is, you know, let you live while you keep sneaking across the border and murdering people.
Well,
at some point, the back is broke. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, it goes back to the conversation of culture and interpretation of your cultural rules or your religion or whatever, right? You know, so there's in Islam, and I mix up the Shiites and the Sunnis, which is conservative and which is liberal. It doesn't really matter for the conversation.
That's right, bud. That's right.
There is one interpretation of the Quran where it comes out and says, you not one drop shall you drink. So the conservative interpretation of that, those Muslims don't drink. The liberal interpretation is they'll take their cup of wine or whatever they're drinking, they dip a finger in it, flick a drop away. Okay, that's one drop I didn't drink, and they enjoy the rest. So, you know, one of those interpretations, one of those cultures is going to be exactly what you were talking about. You know, crush your enemy to dust. The other is going to be live and let live. Those two cannot coexist.
Exactly. I agree completely. So what's the solution to that? We've seen it throughout history, right?
You've seen it repeat throughout.
Come on,
history.
Tom. I know you just don't want to say it. Yeah.
No, there's never been a resolution to that problem. There has never been a resolution to that problem.
I think, and this is where I would challenge you. You say there's never been a solution to that problem, and I would say over the course of history, there's been plenty of the same solution to that problem. And it gets to the point where you're left with no alternative but other than to literally obliterate your opponent.
Well,
now I'm not calling for the eradication of an entire culture or an entire people, but
that's the only way you're going to get rid of the problem is genocide.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
That's the only solution, and that's not acceptable in this modern era. Genocide is.
I would like to think so. I would like to think so too, Tom. I would like to think so. But we all heard it here first. Tom says genocide is the only response.
Let me say this really quick, and I'm gonna both agree and disagree with Paul at the same time. I disagree with Paul's stance that the average Palestinian citizen in the Gaza Strip or in the West Bank is part and privy to any of this, because I think in some ways it's like expecting a toddler to be rational in the decisions they make. They're only given certain amounts of information. They don't know the truth about it. They're just sold what they're sold. And a predominant amount of the Palestinian civilians are poor and uneducated and not plugged in. So I think on that respect, I'll disagree with Paul. But on everything else, though, I think Paul's right. I think the problem is that you have now established that your enemy will stoop to all levels to defeat you. They will violate every guideline of war as set out by the Geneva Convention. They will not only kill, but they will specifically target women and children. They will harm them in the most obscene ways possible. And the only option you have is to literally raze that place to the ground. That's it. That's it. You have to suspend all, like, I hate the idea of what we consider war now, where we don't hit civilian areas, we don't take out the hospitals, we try to be kinder, gentler in our war. No, we need to see Dresden.
That's what it took to win World War II, didn't it?
Yep. We need to see Dresden. And for those of you who don't know what Dresden was a major city in the in World War II in Germany that was responsible for the production of countless aircraft, munitions, all of that. And what the U.S. did was they didn't just target the sites that manufacture those; they firebombed the entire city. There was nothing left of Dresden.
Did the same thing to Tokyo.
Yep,
and Tokyo.
There was nothing left of Dresden when we were done with it. Nothing.
Can I tell you how classless CNN is?
Please do.
So I just explained to you about the young lady who was paraded around the streets naked and either dead or unconscious. Well, CNN is so classy, they tracked down her mom and put her on TV live to talk to her about the video.
What?
Well,
that's disgusting.
Yeah. Right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest with you. Her mom may have wanted to come on and talk about it. You know, it's their daughter. I'd have to see the interview to see how classless it was. I'm firmly of the belief that the only option Israel has now, which is bad for us, so we'll talk about that in a second. The only option Israel has now is to step this thing up, to increase the end game, to not leave anything standing, to burn that place to the ground on their way through, and basically to tell everybody, hey, if you want to live, you'd better get across that little tiny border back into Sinai, because the West Bank is going to be no more, and there will be no more Palestinian settlement in the West Bank. That will all be Israel now. We own that, and we're gonna raise it. I mean,
Israel's going to have to do what they did before.
I don't think the Palestinians
take
understand
all that
how
land.
Yep, and I don't think the Palestinians understand how good they had it. You go look at a map of Israel. That Gaza Strip straddles right up along the Mediterranean Sea. That is prime agricultural land, prime tourist land, prime land. You're going to lose it. And Israel should just take it all back. And then tell the folks in the West Bank, this is what will happen to you if you do the same thing.
Yes. You got to send that message, man. If you don't, you're inviting more.
Yep,
I'm there with you. God damn, Kevin, we agreed almost entirely. Holy cow.
I just hate that it's going to come to that. I do hate that it's going to come to that. I've been a frequent person on this show who has spoken out against the Israeli government because of the treatment of Palestinians, with some of the heavy-handed tactics that the Israeli military uses in going after members of Hezbollah and Hamas, and putting Palestinian civilians at risk. None of that has changed, right? But when you have an attack of this scale, and Israel responds with this is a war. Well, guess what? In war, bad crap happens to civilians.
Yep.
It's a little bit easier to sum up. In war, bad crap happens. Period.
Yes, but specifically to civilians, right? I mean, you cannot. We saw it in Vietnam, right? You cannot fight a war with the idea of trying to just do the minimum to win.
Well, that's what we've done in our last couple of conflicts. I mean, we did that in Vietnam. We tried to do that during Desert Storm. We tried to do that while we were in Afghanistan. It's not how you fight.
Hence the word
No.
conflicts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, and how do we win World War II?
Well,
how did we win World War One? We destroyed the enemy's ability to recuperate itself.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that. But listen, I'm gonna say this right now: Israel's not gonna F around.
No.
The Israeli military is angry. They are motivated. They are strong. They are well trained.
But they're only going to do as much as we let them because they're not adequately equipped. That's going to have to come from us.
Now, the Israeli military is adequately equipped to take out Hamas.
They've already asked us for help. They've already asked us for more ammo for the Iron Dome.
Well, but listen, they'll handle Hamas just fine. Where they're going to need our assistance is if Iran gets further involved.
Yeah.
And if we get involved, it just makes the problem worse.
2 proxy wars.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's that too, because when we get involved in 2 proxy wars where we're dealing with Ukraine and Russia, and then we're dealing with Israel and Palestine, now we're going to see North Korea misbehave and go after South Korea, or we're going to see China go after Taiwan.
Well, and I'm gonna answer that question now.
Ding.
Yeah.
Ding.
Winner,
I'm gonna answer that. I'm gonna answer that question now. Okay. We're not going to have a proxy war in Ukraine. We're not going to have one in Israel. And I'll tell you why. Because in order for us to have proxy wars, hold on, listen, I'll tell you why. In order for us to have proxy wars, Congress is going to have to make decisions that support the proxy war. And Congress right now could not make a decision on what brand of toilet paper to use to wipe their ass.
That's true.
Okay. They couldn't make a decision on funding for Ukraine, even though both sides, Republicans and Democrats, agree that Russia is the biggest threat to us on the geopolitical stage. And yet they couldn't agree on that. They're not going to be able to agree on Iran. Listen, the Democrats, for whatever reason, have wanted to give Iran a free pass since Obama was president. So that isn't going to change. For whatever reason, Democrats have got their noses so far up Tehran's ass that they don't want to hold them accountable. So they're not going to. You're not going to be able to find anything. And here's what's going to happen. In the middle of November, you're going to see a government shutdown where the U.S. federal government can't make a decision to do anything. Congress can't make an agreement to anything. We're going to be paralyzed while the rest of the world burns. Okay, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
All right. So while we're paralyzed, China moves on Taiwan, North Korea moves on South Korea. One way or the other, it's going to be a global
nuclear.
Well, but here's why I disagree.
Hopefully no nukes.
Hopefully not.
Here's why I disagree. A move on South Korea would unilaterally be shut down because there's enough American servicemen and women there that Democrats and Republicans would agree on a retaliatory response.
I agree.
The same thing with Taiwan. There's not enough support from either party to make excuses for China in any way, shape, or form. So I think China's persona non grata.
But there's not going to be enough peanut butter to spread over that much bread.
No, there will be, because we're not going to be involved in Ukraine. We're not going to be involved in Israel.
Maybe. Maybe, but
So-
have we as a country made any smart decisions yet?
Well, no, this isn't us making the smart decision, Tom. This is us not making the decision. Like, I want you to hear me. This is not like we decide.
Is making a decision.
Well, okay, fair enough. But this is not us making a decision whether or not we're going to support them or not. This is us being too divided in our own political camps to pass a bill.
So do you really think that if North Korea made a move on South Korea, that we would just sit here and not do anything?
No,
stateside.
that's not.
I'm
that's not what.
talking
No,
about
stateside.
I know that
that's not what I
the
said.
DMZ would take care of it. I get it, but you don't think that
No.
we would go on the assertive or aggressive position and start
you
looking at
missed-
conflicts around the world?
No, you missed what I said. I said if South Korea became a point of contention, there would be a prompt military response.
No,
and
I heard that.
And
but
both political parties would be on board with it.
Right. I heard that. I get that. But I'm talking about Congress. I think Congress would get their stuff together at that point and say, wow, we've opened up a box. We need to take care of stuff.
No, I think I think with South Korea they would. I don't think for these other conflicts they would. I think Congress has got there too far. And listen, this is both parties in Congress.
Right. I
Okay,
understand.
have their noses so far up their asses that they could not make a decision if they had to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there will be a federal government shutdown in the middle of November. And that's why we as a nation will be paralyzed from making any substantive decisions regarding what our reaction should be to these two newest, or to these two major conflicts, plus whatever else pops up in the next 30 days. And I think Paul will agree with me when I say something else is going to pop up in the next 30 days.
Uh-oh.
Listen, if you want to lay blame, Paul, tell me if you agree with this. If you want to lay blame at the feet of anybody over what we've seen in Ukraine and over what we've seen in Israel, you can squarely place the blame on the election of Joe Biden as president. Because there is no world power, there is no terrorist force, there is no Muslim focused nation that is afraid of the United States as a world power right now. That is afraid of our military might and our decision and our ability to be decisive, and the fact that we're going to stand up for the people that we've signed treaties with. Nobody believes in that right now. And I'm not a Trumper, but if Donald Trump was president, none of this would have happened. Because nobody thinks that Trump would have sat idly by and ignored it.
There is a direct causation when you look at our history in the United States since we've been on this earth, right? As individuals, right, Kev? Our generation, Gen X, when you have a strong conservative leader in the White House. Now, I take exception to September 11th because clearly that was planned well before Bush was in office and was carried out shortly after he took office, right? But look what Bush did afterwards. He brought the hammer down. Now, weapons of mass destruction, Iraq, that's a whole nother story. We're not talking about that. But you're right. Listen, they didn't do it while Reagan was president. Okay? When Bush Sr. was president, Saddam Hussein got a wild hair up his butt crack and decided he was going to take all the oil from Kuwait, and look what happened to him, right? He layeth the smacketh down, right? Bush Jr. gets into office, same thing. Barack Obama gets into office, I'm going to draw a red line in the sand, and not one that I'm going to snort with my gay lover, right? And
stop it.
Nobody paid attention. What, you're going to call a gay guy a liar now? I'm not going to call him a liar.
I'm saying it's irrelevant.
I'm not like that. I'm not just because he's gay, call him a liar. I'm not going to do that.
What and Paul, to piggyback on your thought, not only did Obama not enforce the line in the sand, but he didn't stick up for Ukraine when the Russians came in and took the Crimea.
Correct. Crimea.
You know,
that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
So I don't listen. I'm gonna. Oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this, Kevin. You should probably smack me the next time you see me. I don't know that it was entirely because per se Joe Biden was elected, but I would say that it is a direct result of how he has chosen to govern since having been elected. Like I think that Joe Biden showed enough of a war hawkish spirit that it probably wasn't about his election so much as it's been about how he has led the last couple of years and how incredibly poorly he's done it, how incredibly bad he was at the pullout in Afghanistan. You know, God help us for that sin on humanity, because that opened the door for every despot in the world to, you know, pick a fight with their neighbor, right? Look at American. Look what they did. They left the Afghanis a whole freaking army, right? I mean, holy cow, dude. The Taliban are now the fourth biggest army in the world thanks to what we left them. Yeah, I can't believe I stuck up for Joe Biden, even in the smallest, tiny little bit.
Yeah, I think you're wrong. I really do think you're wrong.
You've humiliated me. Okay.
You've had a lot of stress this weekend, Paul.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. God knows it, man. I hate you, Kevin. Can't believe you did that.
Yeah. By the way, I want to read to you Rashida Tlaib's comments in the aftermath of what happened in Israel. Because Paul, you alluded to them earlier. This is her comment. Okay, I'm going to read these comments. Here's what she said: "I grieve the Palestinian and Israeli lives lost yesterday, today, and every day. I am determined as ever to fight for just future where everyone can live in peace. Oh, sorry, hold on. Where everyone can live in peace without fear and with true freedom, equal rights, and human dignity. The path to that future must include lifting the blockade, ending the occupation, and dismantling the apartheid system that creates the suffocating, dehumanizing conditions that can lead to resistance."
Yeah.
I mean, if that is not,
what are you going to say?
Blaming,
she's right. She's Palestinian. I mean,
that is the equivalent of telling the woman that just got raped
for comments like this.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of telling the woman that just got raped. Well, don't wear that short skirt.
Yep. Yeah. Listen, between her, Ayanna Presley, AOC has actually had the most decent comment, although I always forget our Ethiopian friends.
Who are
it's
you?
weird, man. Every time
I know.
Every time she turns sideways, she just disappears. I don't. What's her? Oh yeah, Ilhan Omar. Yeah. Her comments weren't so bad. Problem is they were nonsensical, right? If you can't identify evil and call it what it is, and you can't look at an act like this and reflect on it and say how terrible and bad it is,
well,
you got no business in Congress.
Here's her comment. Here's what Omar said. She said, "I condemn the horrific acts we are seeing unfold today in Israel against children, women, the elderly, and the unarmed people who are being slaughtered and taken hostage by Hamas. Such senseless violence will only repeat the back and forth cycle we've seen." Meanwhile, and by the way, I love this, by the way, AOC called for an immediate ceasefire in the region. Screw you. You don't get to, kill hundreds of people and then ask for a ceasefire. Like, hey, it's like the playground bully walks up, punches you in the nose and says, "Okay, truce." No, that's not how this happens.
Yeah.
No, the ceasefire only comes after we knock out your teeth, blacken your eye, and break your right arm.
It's you remember after 9/11, the political cartoon that came out where it showed the bottom of a bomber or a jet aircraft on the wing, and it had the bomb on the bottom of the aircraft, and it said, "If you can read this, you're effed." like that's what I'm envisioning right now for Israel, right? They're painting all the slogans and all the sayings, like the guest earlier. So, oh, you ever heard of memes? Yep. So I'm pretty sure they're going to get to hear a few more, right?
Hey, we got to wrap this because we're top of the hour. But I want to ask you one more question on the Facebook side before we wrap this, and then we'll end this. We'll do football picks offline for those of you who remember, idiots. And then we'll wrap. So let's end this on Facebook. Or let's end this on AM now. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. For those of you on Facebook, stay right there.
OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
.com.
Oh, stop it, you children. I swear to God.
Don't swear to God. You've seen what he's done in the Holy Land.
Yeah, speaking of Trump, Mike, Philip just gave me the finger again. We're back on Facebook.
Perfect.
So if you feel the need first.
You shouldn't say
If
children,
you
Kevin.
Sure seems like Philip enjoys fingering Tom a lot. I don't know if we got to figure something out there.
Well, usually it's just someone new the finger. Usually he's fingering Kevin.
Oh my God! Wow, wow, Tom.
You guys are awful. You guys are freaking horrible. I swear to God. I hope you guys die in a fire.
Yeah, you throw me a can of corn, I'm gonna crush it. So
Wow.
Hope you guys die in a fire.
Nope. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone too. I've got words, but
hey, let me ask you guys a quick
Did
question.
I hear somebody say "daddy"?
No.
Just you.
Okay. thought I heard that word somewhere. Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Why are you even going there, Paul? You and I have been agreeing tonight. Like, why would you do that? I hate you.
It's all good. Brother.
Hey, listen. I have a serious question to ask before we wrap this up.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the media the way that it is, especially the left-leaning media that clearly pushes this agenda and everything they report, could we win a war today with the left-leaning media? Because even right now, I looked at CNN really quick, and one of their articles talks about how 121 Palestinian children have been injured in the response by Israel. Now, I'm intelligent enough to know that that's probably a factual report based on some data they got a hold of, but they only run a story with that like that to pull on the heartstrings of people who are paying attention. With this media, could we actually win a war without? Because I don't think we could win a war without broad consensus support of the American population.
Do you mean strategically win a war, or do you mean win a war in the eyes of the American public?
I mean both.
Strategically, we can win a war, no problem.
We saw how detrimental the protests were in Vietnam.
Correct.
Like the protests back home just demoralized the troops. Can you imagine with this media now?
Right. So, popular opinion, it'll be probably as ugly as Vietnam was, but strategically, could we win that war? Yes. If we don't fight that war the way we fought Vietnam, or the way we fought Desert Storm, or the way we fought in Afghanistan. Yes, we can win.
I will echo what Tom is saying, but I will add this caveat. A, it depends on who the president of the United States is. And B, when it comes to the media, keep in mind, half of this country doesn't listen to a damn thing they say. So the only people that the media is speaking to anymore is that 40 to 50% of the country who has their own level of bias that they can't even acknowledge.
Echo chamber.
So it's all about the echo chamber, right? And I don't think at this point anymore, the other half of this country gives a damn what they say, if that makes sense, right? So it does ultimately come down to who is the president, what's the conflict over, what has he set as the goal, and is the United States military allowed to go out there and execute the mission? You let them go out there and execute, and they will win. And half this country just ain't going to give two shits what the media has to say. And I said two shits because 3 was just too long.
I hope you're right.
Many.
All right, let's do some parting shots. Philip, do you have any parting shots? Do you want to talk a little bit more about you fingering Tom? Like, what do you got?
Wow, I'm cool never hearing you say that again.
Wow. He's just waiting for you to come back, Kevin. He misses you.
you were here, you would see what I just did. I was just showing Tommy's number one.
It's just, wow, dude, your days of finger banging Little Miss Mary Jane Rotten Crotch through her purple pink panties are about over.
It's pretty pink.
Listen, hold on. Listen,
I have a
Tom
mute
is
button here.
Get the movie right.
Tom is the wrong person to complain about any of this because he's the one that wears a shirt that tells us to ask him about his butthole. So I don't think he has any room.
You can't.
Well, in the
you can't
Christmas
embarrass
sweater.
me.
Don't forget.
Oh,
the Christmas
No,
sweater.
shut up about really.
Paul loves
Really?
my Christmas sweater.
Fuck you too. Who's next?
Tom, could you
party
wear that
shot.
Christmas sweater on Wednesday?
Sure.
Really,
You want
Kevin?
the ornaments too?
Yeah, with the ornaments. Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure you sit next to Paul.
Yeah,
I always sit
Dad-
next to Paul. He sits in the
Daddy
middle.
wants to see you in that sweater.
So I guess
Nice,
party shot.
Paul.
It's not really partying, I guess, but it's partying because we're ending. Just I remember my trip to Israel, and I remember seeing the contrast of what the Israelis were able to build and what the Palestinians. I mean, I hate to say it, but it reminds me of, you go to a nice neighborhood and then you go to the one with the homeless encampment. It really was that kind of contrast.
Seattle.
You mean the
Yeah.
victim mentality? The people with the victimhood mentality?
I mean, you could
Versus-
identify the Palestinian houses. They're the ones with the big black tanks on the roof they use to heat their water instead of, just having water heaters. I mean, I don't fully understand the economics of it, but you could tell which ones were which.
Tom or Phil, so racist of you. So
Right?
racist.
Hey, they're all Middle Eastern.
Smart and talented
I don't know.
white kids.
And was this lady comparing Israel to South Africa and apartheid? Was that what I heard?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh.
Well,
I
I'm
think,
just.
I think
Go
the
ahead, Tom.
Palestinians take an apartheid type view of the way they live with Israel. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate, but I think they take that point of view.
I mean, Israelis claim they do their best to be good to the people that are there, and they bend over backwards what they claim. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But from my trip there, it's kind of what I remember seeing. I mean, I remember going through the militarized. You got to go through the checkpoint. Everyone stay on the bus. We're not getting off until we get out of this gated area. Because it's the Palestinian area.
Well, let it hit close to home for you, Phil. Because when did you go to Israel?
It's probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay. Well, the young lady we were talking about earlier, right? Yeah, right. The young lady that we were talking about, whose body was stripped naked, just to set the record straight, after she was taken, quote unquote, her credit card was used in Gaza. Whether she was alive or not, who knows? But it's important to note that she's not an Israeli. She was a tourist there on vacation from Germany.
Well, no,
So,
she had dual citizenship, Paul. She was dual citizenship Germany.
Yes, but I'm
and,
sitting here reading what her
Israel.
mother had to say. She was
I
there
understand
on
she had dual-
vacation.
Right, but her any papers they would have found on her would have shown her dual citizenship, which would have made her even more of a once they had kidnapped her. You know what I mean? Just
I want to make I want to make sure that we're accurately understanding what you had to say. Are you saying that like a really bad 70s movie, they went through and checked everybody's passport before they killed them or took them prisoner? Because I don't really think that was the case.
No, I don't think they took any before they took him prisoner, but I think they definitely probably checked any identification they had on them once they had him across the border.
So the exact quote: "This morning, my daughter Shani, a German citizen who was with her tourist group in the south of Israel, was kidnapped." So she may have had dual citizenship, but her mother didn't say anything about that. She called her a German citizen who was with a tourist group. The only point that I was trying to make was that I don't think they were non-discriminating. If you were there, you were a target. Didn't matter who you were. That's the point.
Yeah, I did hear from our tour guide. We're still, in touch. She lives up in Haifa, so she said, her and her family are safe. Fortunately, it was, I don't know, just
until Hezbollah attacks.
I know Haifa's right there north of, quite a ways north of Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Still.
Yes, yep. For sure, man. Well, all our best to them, man. I hope they all are pull through it okay, man. All right, we're going to do final word, Kevin.
Yeah, Paul, do you have any parting shots?
Yeah, I just want to officially announce my candidacy. I'll figure out what for later, but I'm going to run for office.
School board.
And I'm thinking like maybe Parks Commissioner out here on the Key Peninsula.
There you go.
You know, because JPK is a bit of a schmuck. So, just kidding. Totally nice enough guy. He's just.
You could just find the one person who's
I can-
retiring and is running unopposed, and then you could just take over. Just whatever department that is.
Oh, there
just
we
learn
go.
about the job and be like, there
we
it
go.
is. This is my
That's
job.
true. It
Depending
doesn't really seem to matter too much.
Depending on how far you are there, maybe be the mayor of
All right. Good night, everybody.
I'd like to, Paul. We're not done yet. You schmuck.
You know, I'm not. Hey, you know that's Jewish for prick, dude. It's really inappropriate right now. Really inappropriate.
By the way, I'd like to endorse.
Might as well.
I'd like to endorse Paul for Gorse dog catcher. Congratulations, Paul. Tom, parting shots.
I'll break out with some Yiddish for your ass. Impus McGinnis.
Oy vey.
Paul, why are you so interested in Yiddishing my ass? Tom, parting shots.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna
Finger me
echo
more,
what,
Phil. Finger me more.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Give me the finger, Phil.
We need T-shirts. We need T-shirts that say that.
That's a thumb.
I want to have a T-shirt that says "Finger me, Phil." All right.
We'll put it in the merch store.
Oh,
Perfect.
It's gone wrong. This has
So-
just gone wrong.
Go ahead, Tom. Parting shots.
Kevin, would you please let Tom talk? Please, Tom. The floor is yours.
Please educate yourself before you vote. You know, I mean,
Tom's like, please.
Hey, Paul, would you shut up and let Tom talk, please?
No, that's it. Yeah, but educate yourself before you vote. If you've got time, check out the Parkwood Community fundraiser. That's going to be the Friday the 13th.
Great choice of days.
Hey, it's a good day.
Yep.
And unless you were a Knight Templar.
That's true. That's yeah. I've done some work at Parkwood. It's a really cool community club, and it could use your help. So
hey, where's Parkwood at?
It's over on
in Parkwood, Paul.
Madrona Drive.
Oh, shut up, prick! I'm trying. Like I don't seriously know where it's at. God, Kevin.
It's off Madrona Drive. If you get to the top of Mile Hill, and you cut through what used to be the old QFC parking lot,
yes,
it'll put you right there on Madrona Drive. You hang a right, and you'd hang a left there, and then get you to the club pretty quick.
Up by Fire Station.
Okay.
Yep.
That's where that young lady was murdered by that guy. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to be Debbie Downer there for a second, but
yeah.
Siri, where's Parkwood? Okay. So my parting shots. First, I want to thank Rhonda Evans, John Zamel, and Jamie Cross, each running for South Kitsap School Board, for joining us in the first hour. I want to thank Karina Murphy and Sean Murphy, who are back in studio, just kind of hanging out. They clearly didn't run for the doors when they made it out in the lobby, so that's perfect. They don't hate us yet. Give it time.
They were locked.
They're locked in.
That's right. Karina is the social media manager. Sean is the event committee chair for the Kitsap County Republican Party. We want to thank Robert McGee for coming on and joining us. He's running for position 3 for South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Commissioner spot. I want to thank Paul for, having the guns out. Thank you, Paul.
Don't do it, dude.
It's so nice to see the pea shooters.
Sun was out today. Sun was out today.
Sun's out, pea shooters out. Congratulations, Paul. Thanks to Tom and Philip and Lori for being in studio in Paul and mine's absence. We should both be back in studio on Wednesday. I want to thank Phil for doing all the techie stuff in the background. I want to thank Dennis for smoking all the weed. Thank you. Thanks to Dennis for smoking all the weed. And more importantly, thanks to me for being here. I'll be flying into SeaTac tomorrow afternoon, so feel free to have a parade waiting for me in my arrival. And
Did you pick
I'll-
up
I'll be-
souvenirs?
Hey, one more walk on my beach before you go, please.
I will not because my flight is early tomorrow. So I did go down. I went
Get
down
up
to
earlier.
I went to Ocean Beach today. Tom, have you ever been to Ocean Beach?
Lots and lots of times.
If there's a place that screams Tom's vibe, it's Ocean Beach with the live music and all the tattooed people wearing people not wearing shirts that should be wearing shirts. Holy hell, man.
Do you have something against body piercing too?
No, I just think that some people should always wear shirts when they're out in public. I should not be out in public without a shirt on. Trust me. Paul should certainly have a shirt on in public, and a mask.
That's true.
And a cape, and a hood,
And a paper bag.
and a paper bag.
Oh, shots fired.
Boom.
All right. Anyway, but
We're kicked out of the studio. Thanks, guys.
yeah. And I went to anyway. Tom, you'll appreciate this. I went to Ocean Beach tonight. I had we got dinner at Hodad's. Have you ever been to Hodad's before?
I haven't heard of that, but
pretty world famous burger
sounds
joint.
a lot like Hi Daddy.
No,
Kevin,
Oh,
I
the middle
moved,
finger salute.
I moved from where you currently are in 1988. I'm sure there's probably some new businesses that I don't
probably
remember.
Hodad's been around for a long time. They're pretty world famous for their burgers. Anyway,
I
and then
remember it.
went out on the pier down there at the Ocean Beach and snapped some pictures. Tom, there's some pictures on my Facebook page you can see. And but I'll be home tomorrow, so I'll see y'all on Wednesday. Reminder: tonight's show is brought to you in part by Black Ring Spirits. If she's not pretty, you're not drunk enough yet. Drink more at Black Ring Spirits. And also brought to you by Foot Picks by Kiki, reminding you that Halloween is coming. What better Halloween costume than to dress up your little toesies? Foot Picks by Kiki, proudly selling pictures of their feet since 2023.
We still don't know who Kiki is.
I will tell you plainly, there are times you worry me.
Best sponsor ever.
And also a reminder, St. Paul would like you to remember to check out his Grindr profile. Good night, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here on Mega Talk and Outlaw Radio Network.
Let me turn it up for you. Turning it up.
stpaul.com.